Bruv, got a winker in here. Oi. Oi. Good evening, guys. Happy fucking Mondays. Hope you guys are on a wonderful evening so far, guys. Today we're going to be doing more of Overwatch 2. Here in a little bit. We finished the missions last night. Definitely not something you want to replay over and over and over again, and probably never want to see again, to be perfectly honest. Very boring. Once you play through it and you get the storyline down, there's no reason to replay it at all. And then, because you fail it and you have to replay it again, yeah, it gets long in the tooth, as they say. So, not really something I'm looking forward to in the future. But yeah, just turn down the difficulty and beat it, so I'm fine with that. I don't really have any intentions of min-maxing or doing anything different, or... Yeah, they're like accusing LTT of shit. I made some comments on that. We'll probably take a look at that in a second here. They're throwing shade at LTT, which makes sense. LTT is the big dog. They're the one in the tech hardware and tech review industry that people see as the top, and they aren't really even tech reviewing anymore. They're techtainment, as they call them. Techtainment being just entertainment. They are literally just entertainment. So yeah. Mm-hmm. Alrighty. Well. Let's take a look and see what's going on in the tubes here tonight. Probably take a quick look at the drama. Already heard about that. Everyone's banging their drum. I've mentioned this before. LTT does not have good benchmarks. They have not had good benchmarks in a long time. Maybe they never even had good benchmarks. I'm not exactly sure. Because they haven't really changed over the years. And they definitely have the budget to do so. They could do better if they really, really wanted to, but they don't. They're very, very, very rudimentary and very crude. It's kind of a decent bar making more clickbait videos. Not really clickbait, filler videos. Let's see what else is going on. We're probably going to take a look at the Gamers Nexus video, though. Off the ranch making clickbait videos, too. Oh my god, guys, look at all the money we found. Everyone loves videos like that. My god, you see all the money we found, guys? Wow. 100% bought almost all of that. My guess is they bought almost all the bottles that they found there. For sure. And I'm sure they're going to find some fancy gems that are worth a lot of money. It's like literally those videos of people just like finding gems by like digging up some dirt or something. All it sells. Yeah, so I guess limited time here since I got on late and getting on later and later. That's not good. As I mentioned, my sleep schedule is rotating. That's just making things worse. Let's just take a look at this real quick here.
A few days ago, this clip from an LTT lab tour got a lot of attention online.
The difference between us and somebody like Gamers Nexus or Hardware Unboxed is we test new components, new tests every time.
So LTT started throwing shade before GN? Nothing at LTT screams we are the pinnacle of tech of tech testing in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, their benchmarks and their tests, maybe they test every time, but I mean, you can, as long as you don't change the hardware, it doesn't, or not the hardware, you don't change the testing methodology, you don't need to constantly retest every single time, unless the system changes. So, hardware updates, driver updates, Windows updates, which is why you keep everything the same.
We test new components, new tests every time.
And then Hardware Unboxed tweeted dissatisfaction with the statement made in that
This is the other Steve. Other Steve is kind of a troll on Twitter. So there's two people that work at Hardware Unboxed. Hardware Unboxed, I would actually say, is probably the best hardware testing right now. Best tech tubing website. There's some that are better. I would say not XBit Labs. XBit Labs, they don't even think it exists anymore. Tech Power Up, I think, actually does a better job than all these guys. They're very reminiscent of Tech Report. Definitely not the same. Tech Report is not a functional website anymore. Definitely reminiscent of Tech Report, but as far as tech tubing goes, Hardware Unboxed probably does the best job. I don't agree with all their stuff they do, but they do a relatively good job compared to everyone else. And then Gamers Nexus is also up there. That's why we generally watch Gamers Nexus as well. Gamers Nexus definitely, I criticize them for having 5 games they test, and they can talk all they want. They can talk all they want about their testing setup, and look, we made this $200,000 room to test acoustics in, and when they test 5 games, but, the testing 5 games part is kind of the part that's boring. And like I mentioned before, I mentioned this on Twitter as well, is one of the reasons I thought about being a tech reviewer at one point, guys, this was a decade ago, I was really enamored. That's where Tech Report came in, really enamored with what they're doing and testing methodology and nailing down the perfect testing to test what you really need to, like what you need to see and the differences between stuff, the meaningful differences between hardware. One of the reasons I don't do it is because there is absolutely no money to be made here. And LTT is basically the cream of the crop as far as making money in tech tubing. And they don't tech tube, they're techtainment. That's what I mentioned before. And as with the comments on my posts on Twitter about this, is Steve's boring. It doesn't matter. Hardware reviews are boring. That's why people don't watch it. And Linus, well, I can understand why you give people the TLDR, right? You don't just give them the TLDR, you give them the TLDR, and then you also give them everything else that they need to see that you actually tested it right in the first place, right? Because you actually do all that work. Assumedly, you're doing all that work to test things properly in the first place, even if you give them a synopsis. And you can say, oh, jump to here if you don't care about the testing, which some people want. But pretending that Linus is like super amazing at tech like actually hardware review is kind of far-fetched. We look at his channel, it's entertaining. And he gets to review some things that you don't otherwise see on other channels. But as far as actual like good methodology, valid, repeatable testing what they need to, it's not really there. And they really could, and apparently they are, but it doesn't seem that way. So.
We didn't say anything at all anywhere, even though it's not actually true. They don't collect new data and.
Yeah, no shit, no fucking shit.
New tests every single time, and it's not always necessary anyway.
Yeah, as I mentioned.
So when Linus went on the WAN show, we had
WAN show is just a podcast. It's not even techtainment at that point.
Gotten involved. Linus responded to Hardware Unboxed on the WAN show and then said the following.
There's a fair number of people that are talking about the whole Trust Me Bro situation.
So now he's addressing, so even though GN apparently didn't say anything, I assume this is true. Even though GN didn't say anything, he's addressing basically everyone else, because LTT is the big dog. They are the people, they're the elephant in the room that the tech tubers all know exists, because they're basically the pinnacle of what you can become in tech tubing. They're the cream of the crop. And everyone knows they exist, and no one really insults them because, you don't want to start fan war. A lot of people that just don't see Linus reviews as a credible source because their testing sucks. To be frank, their testing really, really fucking sucks. And that I've mentioned that multiple times when we watch their videos.
Where there were...
So he's probably addressing the trolls right now and the avid fanatics, which is not always a situation you want to confuse with. Trolls and fanatics are not always the person, even though the person can generally control the trolls and fanatics if they want to. Like people on Twitch or content creators in general pretending they have no sway over their audience, they're fucking full of shit. The problem is, if they say something that is the opposite of what their audience is doing, they risk alienating them. If you guys know, I think it was a K-Sinet with the fucking looting in New York. Twitter looting New York. I think it was looting K. K-Senate. Yeah, New York. He was giving away PS5s, and then it turned into a riot and looting. And He can pretend all he wants. He didn't try to stop it in any way, shape, or form. He can pretend all he wants that he was just another person that just happened to be there. It's fucking full of shit. He could have tried and stopped them. Not stop them by, physically trying to stop them, but he could 100%. If you have a congregation, you have any sort of cultist, any sort of cultism, guys. You have a congregation, you have a cult of people, and they look up to you. You can try and wrangle them. That's part of being a leader, right? So you have someone that has a shitload of followers that are there to see him, and he just didn't even try, because if you try, then you risk alienating them. You risk losing fans that are like, well, I guess this guy didn't really care in the first place. You know, one of those things. Well, I don't even want to be here anymore. You know, I was here just because of him. That's the downside, is if you actually try to wrangle in your followers and get them to respect what they're doing, you risk alienating them, which is why a lot of times content creators will not do this, of all shapes and sizes, will not do this. Like Trump in January, was it 21? Definitely did not try to stop things. And he could have, and he didn't. And that was part of the problem too. So yeah, like it's not just one individual person. A lot of people do this, and it's every influencer. This is a human behavior problem, which is if you try to stop what's going on, you risk alienating the people that are basically seeing themselves as defending you and what you stand for, which sometimes people have really fucked up ways of doing that, and you probably should put them in line, but they don't. They let them run wild because these aren't leaders. These are just people.
Some creators that it seems like you guys are...
Uh-oh. Is he going to cry? Don't cry. Say something.
Just say it. Everyone knows you're talking about us.
It's pretty clear that not everyone in the creator space handled that super professionally. I don't obviously agree with some of the takes.
I'm not in the Overwatch category, am I?
That it's particularly.
Why am I in the fucking Overwatch category? I changed my channel.
For example,
what is Kick doing?
Facts, to ignore personal relationships.
It is my job to ignore personal relationships. Yeah, if LMG is going to make false accusations and wants to try and use personal relationships to gain favor so that we don't cover something we think is not okay, it's not going to work with us. We don't play that game. The first clip from an LTT lab tour caught our attention, but it itself isn't worth commenting on.
LTT lab? I thought it was just a bunch of guys, or a couple guys in cubicles that literally just run Counter-Strike tests. Like I said, them having a lab.
Something wider in scope we want to comment on.
This is the big drama right now for tech tubing, though, guys.
LTT or LMG is rushing too much to hit arbitrary and largely self-imposed deadlines that are causing frequent and sometimes significant data errors and information errors. And this
doesn't need to. If they have better testing methodology, they wouldn't do that.
Accuracy and
oh, look, Slane's on a different website, guys. Wow.
They're pushing for from LTT
like
Labs.
Changing the symbol up there, don't you?
We've decided to turn off all YouTube monetization here. We will not be placing a sponsored ad in this video.
Because it alienates sponsors, drama alienates people. So this is one of the problems, guys. Drama is the forbidden fruit in content creating, unless you do it all the time. The reason for that is because it will initially generate a shitload of publicity, but it hurts your credibility and how people see you. It hurts your reputation. So if you do it constantly, I learned this a long time ago, so if you engage in it, and you do it constantly, and you don't try to control it properly, it can lead to scenarios in which people are you're going to have a peak in viewership, and then it's going to go down. You're going to have less viewership than you originally had prior to you engaging in the drama in the first place. Because people just don't like drama, and they see people as engaging in drama as uncouth. It deters people like sponsors, which one of the reasons they don't have a sponsor right now is because, which they sponsor their own videos quite frequently, mind you, is because that's not something a sponsor ever wants to be attached to. They don't want to be attached to emotional battles.
With LTT and bring some awareness.
Oh, I changed it just now. That's why I said it.
I've been thinking on this for a few months now. We have a few main points of discussion for today. They span from raw data that potentially misleads consumers.
Like I said,
even if
LTT is the elephant in the room. People just respect them because they're the big
and
dog.
We have some ethical concerns and corporate
I'm not sure about this. This is when you start getting into weird territory.
Ethical concerns regarding LTT's inaccurate testing and misrepresentation of a small company's prototype. followed by the auctioning off of that prototype, despite the company wanting it back for other media and not granting permission for the auction. Also, we're concerned about ethics issues regarding LMG's recent review of the Ponage mouse, where they failed to notice that there was protective tape over the Teflon feet to knock the friction coefficient of the mouse, followed up by a pseudo-correction wherein LMG fails to take full ownership of its mistake and instead blames the product for not hand-holding them through the process of removing said tape. But we'll start with the simpler stuff and then come back to this.
Okay.
So the marketing is strong, but exiting just entertainment and entering technical data-driven reviews and marketing on the back of that means that there needs to be proper work to back all of that up, because people are now putting a different level of faith in the material coming out, and the expectations are different. And we know these issues at LTT in terms of the rushing.
By the way, I'm not exactly sure what his, good evening, Marvel. I'm not exactly sure what his methodology here is for, basically he stands up here and gives a speech, right? He's talking to us. Normally, the first thing to teach you in speech is never write paragraphs down. Never, like, this doesn't really matter, to be perfectly honest. Never write paragraphs down ever. And sometimes if you're at like a political debate or something, they'll look like they're doodling, and oftentimes they are actually just doodling to make it look like like they have more authority than they actually do. That they're actually more engaged and more professional. But if you look here, there are giant paragraphs here. I have no idea how this works, but basically if you do speeches and you have cards, you're supposed to have bullet points on them, because you go off and extrapolate off the bullet point and go through the talking points, right? But if you look here, it's literally like he's reading off his paragraph. Maybe they do have a teleprompter. Maybe this is all right off here. Maybe they have a teleprompter behind the camera. It's entirely possible. I don't think it is, because he looks down here and it looks like he's reading. But you definitely do not want to bullet points, because what it does is it leads to you just looking at the piece of paper and reading off the piece of paper. So maybe they have a teleprompter behind the camera. I kind of doubt it, but maybe they do.
Pushing employees and staff
Never
to hit
feels that way.
deadlines despite concerns with the data or the collection of the data. We know that these come from top down, as shown in a recent LTT
Anyways,
interview.
never use full paragraphs when you're doing a speech or
many of them stated concerns
stand up.
with
You do bullet
content
points and you
quality
remember it.
pertaining to restrictive time constraints.
Let's publish
Bullet points
less
are important, because when you get into
videos.
things,
I
sometimes you
wish
forget about stuff,
we
though.
Could back off the amount and focus on quality for a bit.
More time for projects would be good.
Just allow us more time to work on a video.
We never have time for.
Not exactly sure how they don't have enough time. You could arguably substitute time with parallel work, so more people working on the project side by side on a very specific task that they themselves have to accomplish, and you can do that more often with duplicate hardware too. And then there's a lot of prep too. So if you have a new piece of hardware, a new CPU coming out, right? A new CPU coming out, you don't need to retest all the other CPUs. You can get those benchmarks ready prior to the new CPU coming out. So when the CPU comes out, and your methodology is all done, all you have to do is run it through the steps for as many iterations as you want, and then you're basically done. Unless something pops up that throws a complete, wrench into the works, and you have to do retesting, in which case you're kind of fucked at that point, and you're just going to have to eat the deadline. But I actually perfectly understand that what he's talking about right now is they never have enough time, and that's because they have to be first to market. First to market in techtainment is incredibly, incredibly, incredibly important. Being the first review available is incredibly important. That gets a lot of clicks.
Retrospection. It's always just that's out.
Yeah,
What's the next
generally,
thing?
if you
It'd be
take
nice
a
if
speech
the
class in
pace
college, they make you remember
lessens a
stuff.
little
Sometimes they
bit.
let you use
Sometimes,
cards.
like,
Depends on how long it is, from my
how
experience. But
things went.
I don't love that we have to release so many videos. I don't know what our current count is weekly, but I know it's very high. Very rarely am I particularly proud of a video I've worked on.
And Linus's own
What?
comment.
Very high. Love that we have to.
Shorts are usually extrapolation videos. They release 6 new LTT videos a week? No way. No way. They release 6 videos per week. There's no fucking way. It is like 6 videos a week. What the fuck? And by the way, I haven't watched most of these because most of this isn't even worth watching. That being said, a lot of this is clickbait. And it doesn't look like 6 videos, maybe 5. A lot of this stuff is well, maybe 6. A lot of this stuff is clickbait, meaning you don't even need to test shit that you're doing. This is why this is techtainment. They basically do something, they say something, and that's it. It's like reading off a script. None of this is high quality, in my opinion. It's just like trying to find something that's interesting and then oh, maybe not. No, maybe 6 videos a week. Find an interesting idea like this. Nothing that you'd ever use in a computer in any way, shape, or form.
To release so many videos. I don't know what our current count is weekly, but I know it's very high. Very rarely am I particularly proud of a video I've worked on.
And Linus's own comments recently reinforced that the company is still weighing carefully the impact of spending another half day of work on something to get it right, rather than just shoving it out the door incomplete or potentially wrong.
But it was designed for a 3090 Ti. Well, we went for gold and we tried it with the 4090. The temperature results were bad. It was clear that it wasn't making perfect contact, and so Adam was the writer on that project. What Adam asked is if we could spend more time, put the 3090 Ti on it, and get real results. And what I told him was no, because, and guys, come on, like, for real, okay? It's $800 US. I don't know, guys. I'm not sure if I can apologize for not spending another $100, $200, $300, $500 of various people's time.
And that's an important indicator of mindset that comes from ownership of the company. We'll come back to that clip later, though. They are rushing, and this rush is causing significant and frequent testing errors, but more importantly, it is clouding their ethical judgment.
And what I told him was no.
They are choosing to publish sometimes known bad or known incorrectly acquired data. That's different from a mistake, which all of us do in fact make, yes. But that's part of this topic too. And so given the knowledge of a lack of qualifications when known topic too. And so given the knowledge of a lack of qualifications when known unqualified, or the intentional forfeiture of quality and accuracy for quantity instead, it calls into question the motivations of the corporation and does in fact make it look to be bottom line centric. This is to hit arbitrary self-imposed
It's not every video, which is what he's implying. How am I doing
whose
today?
end
I am
result
fantastic.
is
How about you,
misleading
Marvel?
for
Are you
consumers,
wonderful in whatever part of the world
and
you
at
live
some
in?
point, it is no
Hope so.
longer an unintentional mistake to mislead those consumers, such as with known shortcuts that reduce the accuracy of the content. Rather, it becomes intentional to do so because of the knowledge of that approach. We know some people won't like this video, and those people will leave comments enraged, citing drama as some sort of catch-all platitude.
People that meme, guys, people that meme or post gotchas, if I like posted something on Twitter, which I frequently do now, I never used to prior to Musk taking over, mind you, completely changed the algorithm and how the website functions. But like the comments I never respond to are almost always, I never respond to memes, personal attacks, ad hominems, or gotchas. Gotchas are very, very popular. Usually when people, like if you're in a video game, guys, and someone question marks you, just question mark them back. Because basically what they're trying to do, for instance, is my favorite one. One of my favorites is they try to get you to write their script for them when they're incapable of doing so. So it's the lowest level of engagement you possibly can do, and it's not worth actually engaging yourself because it's a waste of your time. Assuming you actually know what you're doing, it's a waste of your time. You will, like people will want you to do it, especially if they post a good gotcha. But for the most part, like it's not worth responding to because generally it's really low brow, and the people that are doing it generally can't engage in critical thinking or thinking themselves.
To discourage this desperately needed conversation. It's
good.
their way of emoting, I'm uncomfortable. And I agree with you. This is a very uncomfortable video for me to make. I haven't enjoyed the process of it.
Not really. So something to earmark this with, guys, is Steve or not LTT, GN is definitely not afraid of posting burn videos or highly critical videos, and they've probably been doing some that start drama. Probably been doing it for maybe a year at this point, because it generates a lot of publicity for them, as I mentioned before with drama at the beginning of this video. So yeah, some of it's warranted. Keep in mind, some of it's warranted. Sometimes they're on the right side of the situation. Other times it seems like they're just doing it because they know it generates publicity. Because tech tubing is generally very dead. There's almost nothing that happens to tech tube beyond, you know, the release cycles, right? Even though there's a lot you can do to prepare for a release cycle. One of the criticisms I had of GN was what CPU came out and then like Steve just wasn't there. Was it a CPU or GPU? I think it was the XTX came out and he was in like Taipei touring a facility or something like that instead of actually being available for the actual testing. That really fucked things up because he wanted to make a video with a hardware manufacturer. Yeah, was it this year or last? 2 years ago? That was kind of a big deal and highly critical because when your job as a tech tuber is literally just or centers around release schedules, you base your whole schedule around release schedules, so around tech release schedules, and you know. So,
but this is something we feel is desperately needed, otherwise we wouldn't be doing it. And it is not simply drama to talk about errors and factual testing issues in a way that hopefully brings to light the problems so that the media
I don't fault him, by the way, for
LMG
shooting back. If Linus is shooting at him, I don't fault him for shooting back.
If it in fact wishes to do
That's
so.
definitely not. He's not the aggressor
to
anymore.
Lose a lot here. We risk
Not really.
pissing off people with direct and very valuable and useful to us
Maybe sponsors.
connections to YouTube if we ever happen to need them. I don't have a connection at YouTube, really, who can help me in any way. Likewise, we risk pissing off people who are connected to LMG, and that would include large streamers who operate in a class that we can't even begin to approach. But most of all, we risk some of our viewers getting upset. But we are approaching this as objectively as possible. And we ask that you listen to the concerns we are raising and the evidence that we are presenting. Because ultimately, if Linus Media Group wants to be consumer first, then it too should want this level of transparency and should want this knowledge of the issues we are presenting today. The company is now over 120 people. It recently had a purchase or an acquisition offer at $100 million. It's helmed by a new CEO whose past includes a career in director positions at companies like Dell and Corsair. Its lab is led by a former marketing director for Asus, which was recently the title sponsor for LTX following what we believe to be a rather soft-handed handling of Asus's board and RMA issues by LTT. LMG
I
is
disagree.
a big company now.
I think that's one of the burn pieces they didn't really need to do as hard as they did.
And it should be treated as
Good
such.
evening, Heavy.
Okay, with that stance clear, we're jumping into two key categories here: bad data
This
and
is
misinformation.
the drama
This
between
includes
LTT and GN right now.
or intentional. There's a bit of a
Tech
gradient.
tubing drama.
Bad data is testing which is incorrect or erroneous. Misinformation is miscited specifications, for example, or doubling down on flawed testing and reporting on conclusions as if it reflects
What the
proper
fuck is a
testing
mini
when,
LED?
In fact, it has been shown not to.
Mini LEDs?
These topics will later expand for far more important ethics discussion and concerns that we
that
have
mean?
regarding sort of the corporate positioning that LMG is in now. Even with its heavily marketed debut of Labs, LMG is still consistently making errors in nearly every single review that they publish. It is okay to make errors. All of us do this in this line of work, but the concern we have is that these types of errors are in nearly every single LTT technical or review.
As I've mentioned before, and I'll continue to mention, you don't go to Linus for accurate results. You go there for techtainment and possibly an early look at a product that you'll later look again at on GN or Hub or wherever you go for tech tubing.
Review type of video. So there are enough
No, this is
errors
just something
that we
particular. I cover GN, like GN articles, Hub articles, all the time. I generally don't cover drama. Like, I'm not a drama streamer or even a React streamer besides watching, like, doing podcasts and talking about stuff. But I'm generally not a drama React streamer. This is a little bit different because it's kind of a big deal in the techtainment industry right now.
To establish the premise and the concerns, and everything is from the last year only. We're starting with the missed published errors. The more troubling ones are later in the video. Let's start with the entire 40 series.
Windows,
LTT's
please.
40 series reviews started with the RTX 4090,
Any lad,
which
is it
debuted
porn?
with multiple erroneous charts, but one in particular was heavily written into the conclusion of the card. That chart was for Cyberpunk,
please.
where
I am
LTT
much-
allowed to slip past them, an outlier
much more
with the
attractive than he is.
4090 outperforming the 3090 Ti by
React streamer?
300%. In reality, that should be closer to 72 to 75%.
Actually, a cute girlfriend, though.
We explained this previously, but that's because LTT didn't properly set their test parameters and double-check that the graphic settings weren't changing due to other dependencies during test setup. This is a massive human error, and it is indicative of poor process control. No amount of blaming the video game or blaming how its settings behave is going to get you off the hook for this. It's simply human error. That anyone could then look at this chart and think it makes any sense further indicates poor understanding of the data collected. Most of the rest of their own data was relatively consistent, so there should have been clear indicators that this was wrong. Despite being the only one they originally corrected in their comment, this wasn't LTT's only error, and that's a separate concern, because it comes across as burying just how many errors there truly were by only acknowledging the obvious one or not being aware of
Their
them.
testing data
Over
almost
that,
never matches
Shadow
other
of the Tomb Raider from
YouTubers.
that same
Not
review
that it
was
needs to,
even more
because
bizarre.
testing
The
methodology can
3090
change a lot of
Ti
different things.
outperforming the 3090
So how
by
the method they use to test can
61%.
change things.
It should be closer
Presets
to
they use,
13%
resolutions they use,
maximally.
whatever. There's
Once
a lot of things that
again,
can influence
there's
it.
a lack of basic attention to detail, maybe even knowledge, to identify such massive errors. Moving to automation makes this even more dangerous, because now you need the skill to identify flaws through numbers alone without even looking at the screen. The trouble was just how long it took LTT to acknowledge this mistake. This should have triggered deletion of the video basically immediately when they confirmed it was erroneous. Probably a community post on YouTube, a Twitter post, and a timeline for a fixed video with corrections. But LTT waited days to fix it, and they eventually posted a comment, but they didn't even pin it until people in the community started getting mad about that. That comment that was posted also didn't disclose all the errors, just the lowest hanging fruit of them, which is Cyberpunk. And eventually they replaced the entire video in place. They didn't delete it. There's a YouTube feature that we don't have, most YouTube creators don't have, where they can
I've seen
swap
this
it in
before.
place. So they did that, but
I didn't even know
only
this.
after-
Like, I've seen people do this. I didn't know this actually existed. Like, it was something that you have access to. I've seen this, and I thought it existed, but I didn't like, there's no confirmation this did exist. That's a really, really helpful. You know when you go on Amazon, guys, and someone replaces their listing with a different listing for a different product, but still maintains their reviews? Yeah, and you go down to the reviews, and you read the reviews, and you realize it's for like a toothbrush or something when you're buying a battery. And you're like, I mean, that's a little bit different, but, you know, same thing, right? This is actually, that's a really, really important for monetization and for maintaining your place not only in the YouTube algorithm, maintaining your place in the YouTube algorithm, but outwardly making it seem like nothing's changed. It's like waving your magic wand and retconning stuff away, which is actually that's actually like a god tier feature for content creators if you can literally just drop and place a video. He doesn't really say that, but that's pretty much what that is.
Over 1 million people saw it, and we don't believe there was enough active outreach to get in front of this bad data and alert those million-plus people that
Well, it's
their
trending.
purchasing
Obviously, they're trying to
decisions
maintain
need
the
be
money, the income.
reevaluated if that data influenced those decisions. Probably there should have been a recall of the content. If you're curious how we handle these issues, the point here isn't really to talk about that. We have a published set of guidelines that we follow. It is our process and our standard now. That's on gamers.nexus. It's been there a little while. The 4060 review had enough evidence of being rushed, but one of the other pieces was this chart, where an A750 is shown to be better than an RTX 4060 Ti with ray tracing on, which no other public
Makes you wonder
data
how many
seems to
how many times they run the
including our own.
benchmarks.
They probably remade their
That's the
4090
secret
mistake
sauce,
here with
because
applying
obviously the more
different
runs,
settings,
the
or
more
perhaps
accurate data
some type
becomes,
of upscaling.
but the more
They
time it
didn't even
takes.
catch this one. This is another one of the ones that I caught. In their 4060 review, we noticed that their GTX 1060 gains 20% more performance than shown in their 7600 review. That's definitely not from a driver change with a card this old, and nothing else in those charts really moved, so it shouldn't be from a methodological change either. This is clearly an error in one of the two results. That no one noticed this is beyond us. In the 4060 Ti review, they think that memory sharing between the GPU and system memory isn't a thing without rebar, which is just straight misinformation. More recently in June, LTT published its RTX 4060 review with an incorrect lane count in the spec sheet. They listed it as by 16 when it's actually by 8. In May before this, LTT previously made the same exact mistake with its RTX 4060 Ti review. This video on YouTube, they replaced it in place again using the special feature that most people don't have, but if you look at their Billy channel, you can see what the original was, which was the wrong data. In the month since, they didn't roll forward that correction. LTT had already corrected this once before, which indicates to us that they are once again lacking the proper processes to ensure learned lessons carry forward. So it is missing basic research, which once again starts to become reckless, irresponsible, and concerning for a company branding itself in this position. Moving to bad testing in coolers, in May, Linus Tech Tips published a cooler benchmark video. It had a number of errors that take an entire video to explain, but among them, this particular chart gives away one of the major problems because it illustrates inconsistency between LMG's own testing. In this chart, LMG has the NHD15 from Noctua in red and green, the top two bars, and then it has the Peerless Assassin in blue and an orange. Notice that for each result, the D15 is consistently a few degrees better than the Peerless Assassin in LMG's testing. This isn't the problem. The problem is that LTT's own data is inconsistent when you look at the 7700X. Suddenly, we go from a couple of degrees advantage for the D15 over the Peerless Assassin to 10 degrees advantage for the Peerless Assassin. There is absolutely no way with these CPUs that these results can deviate this much without error in the testing process. That this chart can get past someone and not trigger a removal of that data entry or a significant attempt to try and explain what happened indicates to us that LMG presently lacks the qualifications to conduct proper cooler reviews. There is no reason for a sudden surprise 10-degree delta to favor the cooler that was losing in every other test. LTT refers to the frequency reduction of 300 megahertz in one test as, quote, not enough to affect real-world performance, when actually that's basically reducing a 13900K to a lesser CPU like a 137. That is a huge difference. So the ability to judge the data itself once again is suspect and concerning. LTT shows a 280mm liquid cooler as worse than a downdraft cooler, then blames it on NZXT's software. We are not able to replicate this result. They state NZXT runs in, quote, silent mode by default, which still wouldn't reduce it to worse than a stock cooler. And additionally, if it runs in silent mode at all, that means there are methodological flaws where they are not properly controlling fan and pump speeds for this testing, and it's not proper to just blame the product because you don't want to control your test environment and you don't want to use it the way it's designed. This point alone calls all data into all of these charts into question, and it doesn't even look like they're controlling the frequencies and voltages properly. The surface area calculation is incorrect. I made that mistake many years ago, so I get this one. Calculating the total external area of the cooler does not count the surface area of the fins, which is the area that actually matters because it's where it carries the heat. LTT says that Noctua's D15 can take, quote, anything you throw at it and that it, quote, just doesn't lose. Then they say they use it on all of their internal test benches for reviews. Then they show it thermal throttling and Cinebench testing, seemingly without realizing it, or at least without mentioning it. That it can get this close to TJ Maxx at all should immediately eliminate it from use in test benches where you want to see how the base product performs without external variables. We're a bit baffled by how huge the endorsement was for the Noctua NHD15 given their own data. We're a bit baffled.
So, one thing I want to point out here, having owned a 13900K, is that stock settings, they will reach thermal throttling. There's almost nothing you can do about it. It depends on the size of your cooler, but they're very, 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 very power hungry. I believe on the motherboard that I was using, I had an Asus, I don't remember the name of the Asus. I had an Asus board I was using. There's a setting you have to turn off, which basically would run all the cores at their max performance threshold that was on by default on the Asus board, and it would run it just like straight at 400 watts or something insane like that. While I'm playing like Overwatch, while I was playing Overwatch, I had thermal throttling on my 1300K. It took me a while to figure out what the switch was to flip, and I don't even remember what it was because I had a 13900K before I bought my 7950 X30. I had a 13900K for about a month. And there's once, because I was getting like these weird nuanced stutters, which basically amounts to what you're seeing here. And I also have a D15. I was getting these weird nuanced stutters, and I couldn't figure out what the fuck it was doing, and it was thermal throttling, and I still couldn't figure out what it was doing. And eventually I found that there's a switch you have to turn off, which stops it from doing this. Like it runs all the cores all the time at their highest frequency.
baffled by how huge the endorsement was for the Noctua NHD 15 given their own data, but Noctua has close ties with LTT, so that may subconsciously be influencing the
Noctuas are really
interpretation.
fucking good coolers.
And even if it's not, it's still unfair to Noctua because now it's calling into question a positive comment because of those ties. That's why it cuts both ways when you have a conflict this deep. It's not just advertising anymore. Final point here, the Peerless Assassin was tested backwards and LTT blamed the lack of instructions, but we also suspect a mounting issue given their 10-degree delta. Good lab methodology would have redundancies for redundancies to safeguard against human error or perceived instructions error. In April, LTT safeguard against human error or perceived instructions error. In April, LTT reviewed the Amazon Basics cooler. LTT shows data wherein the Vetra V5 is producing numbers which seem physically impossible as compared to other coolers on the chart. As you follow along, note that they sorted the charts worst to best. One thing we noticed was the max temperature value shows a 13-degree delta against the average in their Cyberpunk chart. This indicates that either LTT is averaging data which is not yet at steady state, or it may have a bad mount or test processes. This data should have triggered additional retests, especially as there is plenty of publicly available data supporting the Vetra V5 as minimally equivalent to the physically much smaller Amazon Basics cooler. Moving on from coolers, last month LTT published a labs video where they got the model of the power supply they were reviewing wrong. LTT mixed up the Thermaltake Smart 80 Plus and the Thermaltake Smart BM2, which are drastically different power supplies with different quality levels. They also mixed up the 80 Plus 115 volt and 230 volt markers on the graphs, which have different requirements for the efficiency percentage at a given load. This is something they caught after publishing, so that much is good. Pinning a correction is the right move, and they haven't always immediately done that, like we saw with the 4090 review. So that's an improvement, but they need to at least get these basic attention to detail items right. This isn't even the hard part. Besides, if you can't get this much right, then as Linus himself says,
and doing them halfway is basically meaningless.
While we're on the topic of basic errors, let's do one last one. We randomly clicked on a short circuit video to check for accuracy. There was literally no effort in finding this one, and we landed on a 5600X 3D review. The video host states, quote,
the lab put it through its paces,
indicating this is a piece that the lab specifically contributed to, which is marketed on accuracy. Within the review, LMG initially states correct 5600X 3D specs,
but it has 99 megabytes of cache.
But incorrect 5600X cache specs.
The non-3DV cache version has 36.
Then it displays incorrect 5600X 3D specs on the screen later, and it lists the 5600X 3D as having 4 megabytes of L2 cache, except the 56X 3D only has 512K of L2 per core, totaling 3 megabytes, not 4 megabytes. They also list it as having 99 megabytes of L3, except it has 99 megabytes total of L2 plus L3 cache at 96 plus 3. They then state that it's 1 megabyte lower cache than the 5800X 3D,
and you only lose 1 megabyte of cache,
despite showing a graphic that has the 5800X 3D as lower cache than the 5600X 3D. It's just a total mess, and it's complete chaos. In March, LTT published its 7950X 3D review. LTT blamed a, quote, bad...
So, while Steve here is drilling into LTT, I'm going to point out that, as we just saw, LTT actually releases a shitload of content, and it's not always necessarily going to be correct. And as I mentioned, they definitely can make things correct, but pointing out that you think all their data is incorrect because they have mistakes is also untrue. So, but that being said, their data kind of sucks in the first place, so what does it even mean? I don't go to LTT for tech reviews. I go to LTT for techtainment.
But they should be more focused on producing their own numbers. That is, if they trust their own numbers.
AMD had every opportunity to contest our findings, but when we showed them our results, they basically went, yeah, seems okay.
That's because it is okay. If you're trying to nail the exact differences down to a single % of a first-party claim, then you aren't providing any value as a third-party reviewer. AMD might as well publish its own review. It's not weird at all.
I mean, they do.
Percentage points different.
They basically do.
Upwards of 30%. They make the thing. They're going to test it in ways that benefit them. Then they said this.
Also,
so with nothing else to go on, if
to point out, recently GN toured AMD, and they seem to have a relatively close relationship with GN. So I'm going to point that out. Yeah, I mean, there've been both Intel and AMD over the years have released kind of fallacious numbers, so I would not hold credibility to AMD or Intel's numbers right out of the gates. You know, they're kind of maybe a rule of thumb, a general rule of thumb, but not like, you know, LTT should be a step above AMD and Intel stock benchmarking.
we had launched that review, we would have been the only outlet with a broadly negative take on this chip.
Which is also just weird because they shouldn't be worried about what everyone else is saying in a popularity contest. They should be worried about reporting the truth of their own findings and then trying to explain them if they're different. LTT noted in its email to AMD, which they show briefly on the screen, that part of their stability, quote, problem was enabling Expo without increasing VDIM, except it is normal that higher clocks and memory won't be stable without higher VDIM, VDD, and VDDQ. That's not anything unexpected, nor is it AMD's fault, nor is it new. The AMD made a GSIM menu for...
I'm going to point out I still cannot run my memory kit on 7950X3D. I still cannot run my 6400 megahertz memory at 6400 megahertz speed. There's all sorts of posts all over about AMD's current platform. By the way, this doesn't mean it's horrible, and I still would recommend X3D chips over anything else on the market. But there are posts all over about memory timings and getting things set up at the right speeds. And the most recent firmware, which I think is 1.0.0.7b, I believe it is, definitely helped, because now I'm running at 6,000 megahertz. I'm not even on the latest one, and like I don't even know what they changed between 1517 and 1519. I'm on 1517 right now, but I still can't run it at 6400 megahertz. It's still unstable and it locks up. And I've tried all different sorts of voltage tweaking. It doesn't do anything. There's something on my I have an Asus motherboard. There's something on my motherboard that doesn't like it. And then certain motherboards actually do like the chips and do like the memory. Apparently, allegedly, Gigabyte, I haven't confirmed this myself, but from what posts I've read, Gigabyte actually has the best memory support right now with AMD's high-end or AMD's motherboards with the 7000 series generation, AM5. Whether or not that's true, I haven't verified it. I'm not going back to Gigabyte. I had a Gigabyte motherboard with my 1300K. I went through two motherboards with my 1300K. Yeah, the first one was a Gigabyte board. It worked great. But I've never have I had such bad coil whine. I'm not a big proponent of coil whine. I've done construction in my life, so I have tinnitus. I've never been that, afraid of coil whine. It was atrocious. It was fucking atrocious. There's some tick boxes you can switch to make it less noticeable. It was bad. It gave me a headache. It felt like there was pressure on the side of my head constantly. It was horrid. Absolutely horrid. I noped out of that motherboard so fast. I'm never, even though Asus is having problems, I'm never going back to coil whine that bad ever again. It doesn't matter how good their boards are. It's just not worth it for me. And you can find that on their posts. Apparently, that's with the 1300K in general, because of the power and the way the power works with it, is very prone to coil whine. But Gigabyte boards had it pretty bad. And apparently it's been an issue off and on over the years, and I just guess lucked out on that, but that was not an enjoyable experience.
OC and BIOS worked.
I had a lot of problems upgrading earlier this year.
Used to avoid these pitfalls, as it would auto apply. That test processes do not account for this. Check for this early and just blindly trust whatever it is the motherboard manufacturer menu is doing is once again indicative of.
Folks went out there rising. It looked like they skidded it around on the floor.
Is not the way out. The next brief section is for asterisked errors, which are added during productions. That's after filming and before publishing. You can't do text on the screen anymore in YouTube after you upload, so all of this is done before the upload, which means that when doing an asterisk correction, a creator is aware of that correction. However, these have to be used carefully because most people won't read them. They might just listen to the video or kind of tune it out. So these shouldn't be used for undoing criticism that was unfair. This past week, Linus Tech Tips showed an all Alienware setup with some asterisked errors. In one instance, LTT states that the keys have, quote, stickers.
Curiously cheap printing on some of the keycaps.
Actually, it's double shot PBT.
Yeah, they're double shot except where they put stickers on them.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yikes.
And expresses disappointment, but the editors add a note that says, not stickers, immediately dismissing, apparently, the disappointment. In another asterisk correction, LTT states,
and a 4070 Ti, meaning we should be able to get some pretty good gaming performance out of this thing.
But the editors add an asterisk that says, not Ti. For hard criticisms that are stated by the host or the reviewer, like the keycaps example,
yikes,
serves no value or purpose to come to a wrong conclusion and then put an asterisk to correct it later. You either cut it or you correct it in video. And going back to those interviews, we think they're doing these corrections because they're moving so fast that they won't budget the time to go back and properly correct something, like with the new voiceover line.
I wish we could back off the amount and focus on quality.
When it's clearly entertainment, that's fine. But if you're going to start scrutinizing something, it needs to be treated with care, entertainer or not. Last week, LMG's Tech Quickie channel covered large language model hardware, and within the 4-minute, 45-second video, they had an on-screen text correction from 312 teraflops to 624 teraflops, a big difference. Then they had a related correction later. This is an extremely short video. To retake 2 sentences just for audio would have taken a few minutes to send the host down to the studio. This reinforces our thesis statement that LTT is rushing its content and is pressured to maintain such high throughput that it can't slow down even for a single sentence to be reread properly, or
They could make
that
literally
it is
an entire
unwilling to pay for
department
content
based
to
around
be
catching their
accurate,
errors.
as long as it fulfills a good enough bar. And don't be fooled by LMG. They internally set the standard to upload at the frequency they do. It is therefore a willful decision to forego quality in order to hit the standards that they're setting. 5 more minutes is 5 minutes too many to get it completely right, and that'd cost money. It'd be one thing if they didn't realize this until after publishing, but realizing 2 mistakes within under 5 minutes of video prior to publishing should indicate a proper correction. In April, LMG published a short circuit video that was paid for by Asus featuring the Asus 4070 Dual. The problem isn't the part where they refer to a $600 GPU as a, quote, budget card and then thank Asus for gracing us with the presence of a...
I mean, so this is Steve's personal take on this. As far as like budget cards go, both AMD and NVIDIA are overpriced right now, but that is technically a budget card when you're considering a 4090 is $1,800, was it $1,600 now? $1,600, and a 4080 is $1,000, down from $1,200. That is technically a budget card. Once again, there's a reason that I recommend that if you are into the low end to mid range GPUs, do not buy new, buy used. You can get a 3080 for like $400. So, you know, why would you even bother with a 4070 when you get a 3080 for $400, or 2 of them for $800? And I believe AMD is even cheaper right now. So, like that would be 6800 XT.
$1 backplate.
It's got an aluminum backplate, which is really nice to see on a budget card like this.
Or the clearly biased language where they give a manufacturer a blanket statement for always being good.
It's an Asus card, so it's going to perform great.
But rather the problem is
They generally
the
do.
simple correction for a misstatement on the amount of HDMI and display ports available.
3 DisplayPort, 2 HDMI on the Dual.
They could have just cut around this. We're not sure why they left it in. And all of these post-shoot, pre-publishing corrections bring us to the next set of concerns, which is an increasing amount of irresponsible actions and conflicts that we've seen emerging from Linus Tech Tips. So we've been seeing an alarming amount of conflicts from Linus Tech Tips as it relates to their corporate connections, their flow of money, and the potential bias as a result of those things. And we've been looking into this, maybe more of a future video thing, but some of the concerns include how Linus is personally invested $200,000 into laptop maker Framework, and yet is also covering their product and their competitors' products. LMG...
By the way, Framework sounds like a cool idea. It's not, though. Framework is where you can have a modular laptop, which sounds great because it's a lot like a computer. This idea has been around for over a decade at this point. The reason it doesn't pull it off is because you have a small form factor, and laptop manufacturers make a lot of their money based on you getting to upgrade something. I think like the 2 things that really need to happen as far as laptops go, as far as our upgradability, is one is there needs to be a standardized socket, and the other one is you need to have slottable video cards. Those are the only 2 things that need to happen. You can already upgrade your memory. You can upgrade your hard drives inside. They're kind of a pain in the ass to do, but you can do it. The 2 things that do really need to happen, though, is no soldered on CPUs, so you can upgrade your CPUs. And the other one is, they're actually called MXM cards. They've been around for a while, and sometimes you can get them that way, but other times you can't. There's no standardized MXM form factor. So, MXM video card. These have been around. This is the only thing that needs to happen. And you can buy one that is an MXM card and maybe a 3070. That doesn't mean you can put it in your laptop. And then even if you do, like have an MXM slot in your laptop that a video card is in, even if you upgrade it, it might not be electrically compatible with the laptop, and it might not even be whitelisted. So what laptop manufacturers do to be complete assholes is they'll whitelist stuff, meaning when you buy it from the factory, they'll have specific firmware on your motherboard that limits what you can have in the slots, because they want to charge you more money. But yeah, like otherwise, other than that, the amount of USB slots you have, it doesn't fucking matter. That's just what comes with it. What really, really matters though is it needs to have an MXM slot and it needs to have a socketable CPU. And once you can change those things out, that's a big deal. That is a big, big, big deal because that means you can upgrade, you can buy used, you can sell different parts, and people can salvage them too. If a laptop breaks, they can salvage components from the motherboard rather than having to resolder or desolder them in the first place. I've been a very big proponent of MXM and socketable CPUs in laptops for a long time. That really needs to happen. I think my current laptop doesn't even have a socketable CPU. It's welded on. Same thing with the GPU. It's just welded to the board, which means when I need a new motherboard, I have to go to the manufacturer. Which my laptop right now, my sound is fucked up, meaning sometimes when the shell flexes on it, it actually causes the sound card to detach, and then I have to either reboot my computer or I have to disable and re-enable it again. And my warranty ran out, and I'm hopefully getting another warranty in, but oh yeah, and I looked at the price for the motherboard, and it was the same price as the laptop. It was $900. Actually, the laptop was like $1,100, so I saved $200. But yeah, and I don't think it even has the same CPU. Yeah, that's kind of a big deal. So, like, obviously I'm not going to buy a new laptop. I'm going to see first if I can warranty it, and if I can't do that, I'm probably going to get like an external sound card or something, maybe a Bluetooth speaker. I'm going to get a Bluetooth speaker just attached to it. That's a frowny face moment right there, guys. Maybe I'll get like a small Bluetooth speaker. Yeah, it's maybe because they have like little cube things too, so I think you can actually kind of like a unrelated kind of softer tangent here. Let's see, Bluetooth speaker, maybe tiny micro. Pretty sure you can get cubes. Look at that. Yeah, so something like this. Like, it doesn't need to be like a beatbox, just something you can, maybe I'd even hot glue it to the side of the laptop. Oh, shit. Oh, God, guys. I'm going to hot glue the fucking speaker to the side of the laptop. I'll be back, guys. I'm going to wash up my coffee cup. Yeah. It's just going to live there for the rest of its life. Because spending $1,000 for a new sound card, everything else with the laptop's great. Yeah, I think this is the first laptop I've actually had shelf flex kill part of it. Luckily, it still functions, but that's very disheartening. Yeah, just it has like a bar on the back. Maybe I could get like, maybe they have like a sound bar. Like this, only tiny. These are actually like legitimate sound bars. Tiny. I think I have a USB port in the back. Maybe I could get like a right angle cable too. Oh, that's gross that I'm actually thinking about this.
It also has a cross-branded, again, screwdriver with Noctua, and that's being sold on their store, while they're also reviewing Noctua products favorably, even when it's shown to be hitting, by their own data, 100 degrees Celsius, which becomes problematic for brands like Noctua as well.
It could be
because
hitting
now
100 degrees Celsius and still be good and cooler.
The praise is genuine,
That depends on
or if it
how
is
much
biased,
heat it can
whether
dissipate.
intentional or unintentional. These issues, combined with high-level corporate connections through the CEO and through the head of labs, raise a lot of concerns about conflict. But we won't be getting into them in depth in this video. Instead, we're going to focus
Also,
on
I'd still definitely
the
recommend a Noctua cooler,
consequences of
purely because it's an
irresponsible
investment.
reporting
If you guys
and
didn't
bad
know,
data.
Noctua coolers have a universal mounting plate, meaning with each new CPU that comes out, they release a new mounting plate. So I have had the same Noctua cooler for the last 4 systems I've owned. 5, if you include my 1300K. So I've had it for over 7 years at this point, I believe. Still works great.
And how that influences the purchasing decisions.
That's nice. That's
of
up there with a
millions of
really
people.
nice power
To
supply.
start with, let's discuss the implicit ethics of knowing a lack of qualifications yet continuing to operate on a certain type of content, or being unwilling to commit the time to do that content properly, especially if you know that there are flaws and shortcomings already and choose to forge ahead. We don't really see any other options here. It is either too rushed to the point of potentially producing harmful information to viewers and to consumers that they then act on, and to manufacturers alike, or the company is unqualified
CNET
to
exists.
produce that information. It's really one or the other.
So I want to point out, CNET exists, and there's plenty of hardware, quote unquote, hardware review websites that are literally nothing more than back of the box reviews. I like to call them back of the box reviews, which is you read off the specs on box A and you read off the specs in box B, and you go, wow, this one's better than box A because it has a bigger number on it. But everyone should know by now, if just because something has a bigger number on it doesn't mean it's always that number, right? Like if you ever buy a flashlight on Amazon, and they list certain lumens, you'll get 1 million lumen flashlights or 10,000 lumen flashlights, and they're not 10,000 lumens. They're like 100. Yeah, because Chinesium, or a lot of products that are made in China, that are made of their own native element, kind of turn into poop, and then they just market them really good because they know people literally just read box A and box B. So I wouldn't say Linus is as bad as that, regardless of what he's saying right now. And despite despite me joking about techtainment, he's marketing it as Linus being absolutely horrid. The low bar here is CNET, so.
This one talks about the ethics and power of a review outlet, and therefore its responsibility to do due diligence on a product. On June 24th, LTT published a video about a copper water block made by a small company called Billet Labs, founded just last year. LTT took one of the company's first prototypes to test, valued in the thousands of dollars for manufacturing, not counting opportunity value. In the video, the LTT team stuck this special 3090 Ti water block on an RTX 4090.
If this wasn't a 3090 Ti, then we don't have another 3090 Ti that we can take apart.
How the hell did we not know what GPU this thing was?
I thought it was a 3090 Ti.
So we just casually had a 4090 sitting on the shelf, clearly labeled?
Stating that it should work, despite it not being explicitly compatible. The company did not tell LMG that it would be 4090 compatible. They told LMG that they could try to use a 4090, but Billet Labs itself had not tested one as it didn't have a 4090 at the time. Water blocks have very specific tolerances and clearances for components, so any misalignment would cause poor contact to the GPU core. LMG decided to try it and continued with the video despite misrepresenting the product massively by using it on an incompatible device that it literally would not fit properly. LTT's presentation goes down the path of being irresponsible, presenting the product as much more difficult to work with than it would be if used properly. The conclusion is,
like, it's a cool product, but it's a bad product.
It looks great.
Yeah, it looks super cool.
Are you just saying it's bad just purely because of the price?
It's bad because it makes absolutely no sense and nobody should buy it.
I mean, that's probably true too.
The community is actually really amazing.
But so, like liquid cooling in general, when you get out of the all-in-ones, the AIOs, get really fucking expensive, and that's all about looks. Not necessarily about performance, but it's all about looks. Maybe a little bit about performance, but generally it's all about looks. So, if you're looking at it from a utilitarian standpoint, like liquid cooling, generally is not something you ever want to do. All-in-one, maybe you want to do that, but even then, all-in-ones are generally really good at just moving heat from point A to point B. They can dry out over the course of like 3 to 4 years, so it takes a while, but the liquid in them can actually dry out. But it's good at moving heat from here to here, but then it doesn't cool the VRMs, which is voltage regulation modules. So basically all your power delivery on your motherboard doesn't cool it properly, and sometimes you have to add extra fans on it. But it's good for small systems, but not necessarily great for normal computer. Heat pipes are still infinitely better than a liquid cooler is.
But there's a vocal minority that looks at something like that and goes, lazy, out of touch, whatever else. No, I'm just really experienced at this.
Oh. You got it.
Crap. Did you put it in backward?
Get a shot of that. Look at that.
It founds this conclusion on the basis of improper
it's a funny moment in a video. They can cut that shit out.
It needlessly harms a small company, and this kind of behavior can kill someone's life work in a heartbeat, and it'd be based on invalid testing and presentation.
Well,
one of the company founders posted below the video and stated this, quote, "We love LTT, but it was difficult to watch their criticisms when pretty much every design issue that Linus raised was done for a reason which was all explained to Adam weeks ago. None of which, I guess, was fed back to Linus. We also sent a full instruction manual that seemingly wasn't used. I think there's definitely been a major communication breakdown along the video pipeline. We assumed we'd have a chance to answer any problems that were raised and explain them before being publicly misrepresented." LMG faced some controversy from its community, at which point it replied on the following WAN show, doubling down despite a complete lack of accurate or even useful testing.
Nothing would have changed. Nothing that obeys the laws of physics would have changed the conclusion.
That statement is already a reckless and problematic.
I mean, so you have two different things here. You have an $800 water block, is it? Is it just for the CPU or just for the GPU? And it might perform decently well, but it's still $800.
Doubling down, considering the elimination of any possibility to change the conclusion, including a 20-degree reduction, which should change the conclusion.
If the GPU had been 5 degrees cooler, that would have been the conclusion. If it had been 10 degrees cooler, that would have been the conclusion.
So you're still, once again, you might, I don't know how GN is misrepresenting Linus here, but I assume his take here is based on an $800 GPU cooler kind of being expensive for what it is.
20 degrees cooler, that would have been the conclusion.
And we're not alone in saying they should have just done it properly. At least then you have grounds to stand on for criticisms.
I also get not wanting to retest, but I do think probably just testing it with the thing that they knew it worked with in the first place probably would have made sense. Because like you're saying, the test result stuff doesn't matter. But if it's just supposed to look cool, then it should be seated properly so it looks cool.
After about 5 minutes of rambling, the conclusion effectively was, lol, it still sucks though. Linus then, after publicly humiliating and trashing the work of two guys just getting their start in business while relying on zero effort to examine the thing correctly, complains about how he'd have to spend $100 to $500 more on an employee's time to test it properly.
But
well, I mean, that doesn't matter. They make mistakes. That's sunk costs.
I don't know, guys. I'm not sure if I can apologize for not spending another $100, $200, $300, $500 of various people's time sitting and engineering a workaround to a product that no matter the result, nobody should buy.
Now, we don't have any connection to Bill Labs, and that comment was offensive.
At the same time, so stuff like that is highly, highly cosmetic, and the people that buy that aren't necessarily the people that are buying for utility standpoint. So Linus is very polarized, and Steve is very polarized right now in response to Linus being polarized. But at the end of the day, people are going to probably buy it because of the way it looks, regardless of the price tag, because they think it's cool, and that's who they're depending on for their market value, not necessarily because it's a great cooler, just purely being a great cooler.
We can't imagine how heartbroken they must have been. Linus, in order to protect his company's bottom line, was willing to potentially inflict immeasurable harm.
By the way, if you're a GN and you want to do something like this is where you retest the water block, whatever they just showed, the water block for the GPU, you test it properly, and you basically throw Linus under the bus, and you reference his video because it's hilarious and also would show, you know, give proper coverage to the company. You'd win over the people in the comments section that think Linus should test it properly in the first place, and then at the same time, it's like loss for Linus. So it offers some redeeming quality for that company.
To a startup, rather than spend, by his own admission, a couple $100 in someone else's time out of the $100 million company's coffers. Making matters worse, in conversations with Billet
Revenue is
Labs,
not profit.
Gamers Nexus learned that the company asked for the prototype back on June 28th. This would allow them to send it out to other media or use it for further development. Linus Media Group agreed at least twice to return the product. The first time they agreed to send it back was June 30th. At LTX, Linus Media Group put the one-of-a-kind water block up for auction at its Extra Life auction event, without the permission of Billet Labs. Billet did not learn of this until around August 11th, at which point it was told the block is gone. Again, this is despite LMG agreeing in late June to send it back, as LMG would have no further use for the block. Billet told us that it is now stalled, as it no longer has its best prototype available for continued development. It's also missing one of its GPUs. We voiced to Billet a concern of a potential.
If you own a company, guys, and losing a block of copper puts you under, I don't know.
Potential competitor, many of whom were at LTX where it was auctioned, potentially getting a hold of the block to send it off to be cloned. Whether or not this happened is irrelevant. The point is that there's a responsibility that was ignored. The question that...
apparently Linus already addressed this. I saw this on Twitter, which is the auction was for charity and that they fully reimbursed Billet Labs for the water block already. They paid the money for the water block. Regardless, so GN is also misrepresenting things here. Like I said, this is just, we're watching one side take, one take here. I do think Linus could definitely do better, as I've criticized prior to this Poppy Dub. I've criticized their benchmarking in the past. That's why I call them techtainment and I don't call them a tech tuber, because they're techtainment. It's entertainment. You don't hold them to the same standards as a hardware review company, because that's not really what they're doing. But a lot of people don't know that, and that's where the stipulation comes in here. Is Linus is perpetuating his company as not techtainment, but rather like kind of like a legitimate testing company like GN, or I'd go with Hardware Unboxed, who I don't think they even, well, they did say something about this. Hardware Unboxed does a pretty good job, but I still think they aren't even as good as some written articles. Like Tech Power Up, I think, does a better job than everyone right now. They, with like the 7000 series launch, with the X3D launch, they actually did a much better job than anyone else. And we talked about that because we covered a majority of the outlets when that was happening. Yeah. I got some, apparently some of the guys that whose reviews we covered, they didn't really like my criticisms of the fact that I didn't really test stuff very well. Putting that aside, which is funny because I don't actually test stuff, right? I mentioned before, I actually thought about being a tech tuber at one point in my life. There's just no money here, and this is the pinnacle of trying to make money in techtainment, or tech tubing. Is Steve is making a 40-minute video on Linus, and Linus has so many dicks in the pie, like he has no idea what's going on anymore. So, and it's techtainment.
You have to ask as a reviewer, am I being fair when making this type of commentary? And that's regardless of whether you are just an entertainer or you have your entertainer hat on for that video, but not the next one. And this is particularly important for anyone marketing the future of their business's success on the back of objectivity, fairness, data-driven reviews. Another example of this just popped up recently as we were finishing this video. In the short circuit video where Linus Media Group reviewed a...
Almost no one tests peripherals. Putting aside Linus and GN, no one fucking tests peripherals. Some people do. They do a really fucking terrible job on it. Almost no one legitimately tests, like in any sort of depth, tests peripherals except clicking some buttons, and maybe they'll do a latency, a click to photon latency test where they click the button and see the light pop up on the screen, or either with a reflex, which is built into NVIDIA monitors, G-Sync monitors, or they do the traditional one where they actually take a picture with a high-speed camera, take a high-speed camera video to test out the input delay. Almost no one tests the accuracy of the laser. No one tests the laser for error because you need some really, really specific testing methodology to do this. The one reviewer that kind of did this, TechTuber that kind of did this, he was getting to that point, but he like reached kind of the point of where he had to test the stuff and then stop battle nonsense. Kind of some cool videos, very polarized too, and some of it was interesting and other parts not so much. Was getting to the point where he's testing peripherals like in a highly controlled environment, and then he just stopped making videos. Like, he hasn't made videos in forever. I guess he had to move on with his life or something. I'm not exactly sure. Sometimes just creators just disappear, guys. It's just the way it is. But almost no one tests. The only website so far that I would say actually does a good job is Artings, and they test mice. Whether or not they do a good job is like, you just have to take their word for it. So yeah, mouse reviews. They do a really good job with their presentation of data. Where is their table? Table's actually really good because you can look at all their data, and then you can compare their data between them, and you can there's basically every part of their data you can compare. Let's see, response, play, click, latency, data. Like, their table here is phenomenal. Click. Fired. We got some NAs in here. We can look here at the click to photon response, 1.5 millisecond. The ROG Chakram core. Stormbreaker. That's the mouse that apparently Linus is testing. Where's the Viper? There's a Viper 8K. Rate. Maximum pulling rate. Slightly broken. 8K, 8K, 8K. There's a lot of mice that are 8K now. There weren't. God, who the fuck would use that? I guess that's for a claw grip. Like, I use a claw grip, but I wouldn't ever use this mouse. .6, 2. Like one of the original 8K mice. Actually, I think this is the first 8K mouse to come out. They have an aggregate score here too, which is made up of a couple different categories, but you don't need to look at that. Their data is slightly misorganized here. I think this has a lot to do with how chart C, like 125, is reading this as like 1,250 hertz instead of 125 hertz. Why these are here. In 90 hertz, it's seen as 9,000 hertz. So they have some sort of rounding error, or I think maybe not using a integer. Something going on here. It's messing up the table. So it sees this as 9,000 hertz, even though it's 90 hertz. Anyways, probably the best place for peripheral reviews right here, and even then I think they could do better, but yeah, there's not many places that test peripherals. This is basically, I think they do CNET testing.
Mouse in their not a review, the company made strong criticisms of the friction of the mouse in the video.
This is not a smooth mouse, and that's really disappointing. Especially on like a premium gaming mouse. That should be one of the primary focuses.
Pwnage then contacted LMG to notify them that LMG had not removed the protective film from the feet of the mouse. Linus noted in the WAN show that the short circuit team then posted a pinned comment saying that in fact there weren't any stickers on the mouse at the time of testing and that they stood by their commentary of the product.
The bigger issue here is that our initial correction, which was posted, said, hey, no, it is high friction, and we did test
I think
it,
Linus is trusting his team, but his team's also lying, so they don't take responsibility for what they did.
But one for which we can't fault them. They point out the irony of being chosen as a gift for LTX's Whaleland attendees, despite the conclusion.
Wired. I'll always use wired. I'm never going to use wireless
The only
mouse.
question that remains is,
probably never use
am
wireless
I
mouse.
recommending you buy this product? No.
This, we don't think, is about buying favor, but rather the dichotomy between being chosen and then having such an egregious error unfairly undermine the integrity of the product and its chief marketing point. LMG then eventually began the process of replacing the video in place once again. We assume this time with YouTube's trim tool. That'll take a day or two to process. They're cutting the section about friction, but this doesn't fix the problem. They are choosing to leave the content live whose conclusions were at least partially based on massively erroneous work because they don't want to hurt their video performance. People continued to see the original until it processed. That can take a day or two, but they're willing to throw Pwnage under the bus one last time by providing feedback that the stickers should be more obvious. For an end user, maybe, but an end user doesn't get paid to test a product, whether or not it's branded as a review. All of this is ethically unacceptable. They like to brand
wireless
their
mice,
short-term
regardless
stuff
of
as
latency,
unboxing.
which
So in
is
other words,
still
not
higher
review.
than wired
But
mice,
it's
can suffer from
to hide behind that
EMI,
whenever there's a
R5,
mistake. This
electromechanical interference or radio frequency interference. So your your mom, heating your hot pockets could interfere with your mouse clicks and get you killed in Fortnite. So why would I even bother with a wireless mouse when I can just use a wired mouse? It seems like an extra step.
magnitude of error is what the mouse, or in the case of the water block, the block is marketed on, which is either glide or thermals. And to screw the strongest marketing point through such an egregious error as...
As kind of a segue here, guys, but as far as mice go, I'm actually more interested in a dual or triple sensor mouse, which don't exist as far as I know. There've been some over the years, but I think Logitech had a dual mouse at one point, which was essentially, it had, the one sensor was for liftoff distance and the other one was for tracking, so it wasn't technically a double sensor. And the reason they don't do it is obviously because it would be expensive, but then it'd also take engineering in order to do it in the first place. It's generally not a big problem. Error is generally not a big problem for most people because most people do not use a mouse at high DPI or high sensitivity. I do both. I run my mouse at 8600 DPI, and I also play with high sensitivity in a game. It is very, very fast, and what that means is, over the years that I've used my mouse, is there are a lot of mice that lie about their DPI. They either do smoothing or they'll also do interpolation, which means they'll make up bullshit along the way that they think where your hand is moving, which is definitely not what you want. But some mice will actually read the actual data, but then they also can have error in the data. If the sensor or the surface is slightly off or the material is slightly off, that can throw off the reading. Normally with mice, the way it works is you have a low DPI and you move your hand a lot. That makes a lot of extra data points. But if you don't move your hand a lot, it doesn't have that many data points to go off of. And any small error, if it is deviated a lot, like a decent amount of deviation in it, will throw off your reading. It'll throw off the mouse movement in general. So there's no redundancy inside mice. They depend on one sensor and that's it. That's a pretty insidious look going on there, whatever's happening there. Not sure what he's thinking about right now. But there's no dual sensor mice. There's a lot of reasons that people don't use high DPI. You could technically use high DPI and then low sensitivity. You could even market a mouse that would run at higher DPI and then would basically downscale the DPI to a lower DPI number, so you always have the highest DPI. I don't think any mouse does that. So you're running it at the sensor at the highest DPI level, and then it will downscale to a lower DPI number, which gives you a more accurate positioning of the mouse itself at all times, but at the same point would be more compatible with current games. I don't think any mouse actually does that. There's peripherals in general, despite being like your conduit to your computer, your ability to play video games on a computer, are not very... They're like low-hanging fruit. They're like fucking like headphones or something, where they've kind of existed for a long time, and they've been something that people constantly overlook. GPUs have great benchmarking. Tech tubers really kind of drill into GPUs. They drill into mice. peripherals are one of these things where almost no one, like, Rtings is probably the best source of information for almost no one drills into it, and if they do, they try to make up their own testing methodology, and even then it's a new frontier, and almost no one actually does it properly. And I fault that, I really do, but it's what we have right now. It being, despite the fact that your mouse matters a lot to you as a gamer, there's almost no testing surrounding them. And meanwhile, Steve here is testing the uniformity of surface mating surfaces between GPUs and their cooler, or their CPU and their cooler, and how uniform the pressure is applied. And there's some other bigger fish that people will probably be more interested in. I fault GN for a couple different things on how they spend their time, like only testing 5 games or something like that. I think they're up to like 7 now, but for a while they're only testing like 5 games, and they weren't new games, and it's kinda, you can spend as much time as you want showing smoke going through a fan or whatever, but you only test 5 games, and yeah. Hub, on the other hand, generally tests they test like 12 games initially, and then they test like 40 later on, although I think it's a cumulative. It's like 48 is a cumulative, and they test at multiple resolutions, so kind of a bunch of games thrown together, but at the same time they still test a lot of games.
Not taking the tape off of the product and still leaving the video up, even while processing a cut, is callous to the impact that those choices have on these companies. Linus Media Group is massive. That has to be treated responsibly. There are correct actions. It should result in some sort of immediate trigger, like a removal of the video.
100 employees isn't that big, mind you.
Did it again.
They're worth a lot of
Here's
money,
the
but
new
they don't
result.
actually have that many
What's
employees.
even more disturbing, though, is the community response every time.
It's like a
someone
small
has
company if you're
criticism
actually a
that's
normal-sized
valid.
company,
Like
or a normal
when
company.
The community beat down Hardware Unboxed for voicing their concerns of LTT's testing accuracies issues, which, while not completely tactful, yes, were valid.
Fucking
Then you
Steve.
look at the recent
Steve's
comments,
trolling.
though,
Other
like
Steve's
this,
trolling.
quote, if a professional mouse reviewer couldn't figure it out, what makes you think the average consumer will find the plastic wrapper cover? Quote, Short Circuit isn't a review channel. It's an unboxing and first impressions channel with some labs testing. The conclusion was just David's opinion. He had more issues with the mouse than just the feet. Quote, and if your product can be unboxed by a tech reviewer who does this for a living, and that reviewer doesn't even realize there's packaging that needs to be removed before use, that's bad user experience design of the product that should be called out as a negative. Yes, but calling it out would require noticing it as a prerequisite, which a media outlet taking its time would do. Just because Ponage didn't phrase it in exactly the nicest way doesn't mean their point is invalid. The same went for Hardware Unboxed with their concerns. Ponage was defending themselves. They apparently, according to Linus, tried it the nice way first before they wrote that abrasive tweet. And it's after getting humiliated publicly a second time through the pinned response, the first one, that basically said, no, our testing was right.
This is taking a lot longer than I thought it was, guys. We had to cover it, though. Drama like this is pretty rare, and I'd say this is meaningful. My guess is what's going to happen here is Linus is actually probably going to get better at testing, which would be good. I think tech tubing in general could use more fresh blood, or even more experienced blood that actually does stuff that matters, makes sense, and matters. Yeah, but like I said, Linus, we haven't went to Linus for actual tech reviews in a long time. We go there for first reviews and techtainment, but not for normal reviews.
It is irrelevant. So we're not going to try and pretty it up. It is unfair. It's unfair to consumers who get misled to bad purchases or not understanding the product.
Usually they tell you. They're pretty good at that.
To companies, when there are major points that are erroneous and aren't properly addressed or handled.
Like they put a little red tab on it that says remove before putting on the CPU, and you're like, who doesn't take off the sticker? Like that's my first thought when I do this. Like, who doesn't fucking take off the sticker? Apparently, there's some people that don't. Also, that potentially means that they could just take the stickers off the PTFE feet in the first place at the factory. Just throwing that out there.
Time, and yes, even $100 or $500 or whatever it takes in some cases to get it done right. And it's sad to see because it undermines all of us. They are prioritizing publishing on a fixed schedule, which they have self-imposed. This isn't, the YouTube algorithm isn't some magic thing that actually needs daily uploads. Does it help? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it does.
But
YouTube algorithm is definitely magic. A lot of big companies have magic. The Twitter algorithm, figuring out the Twitter algorithm. What I get downvoted, or I got deprioritized for recently. It was a comment. Any reference to a cult will get you deprioritized. There we go. So if you talk about cultism, if you talk about people drinking the Kool-Aid, if you talk about followers in a way that kind of represents cultism, you'll get deprioritized in the the Twitter algorithm has three different tiers. You have the first tier, which everyone can see. You have the read more tier, which presents possibly inflammatory or otherwise unscrupulous comments, and then you have the third tier, which is pretty much anyone that swears. If you swear at all on Twitter, you'll go into the third tier, in which no one or anyone will ever fucking see you ever again, which is a little heavy-handed in my opinion, but that's the way Twitter is. If you guys didn't know that, so if you swear on Twitter, your followers will still see you, but anyone outside of your followers won't see that shit. It's kind of curious because I've wondered why some of my tweets like do really well as far as engagement goes, as far as impressions go, and then I have other tweets that literally there's 0 views on it, or maybe there's like 5 or 6. And as it turns out, if you go below the double read more categories, no one will ever see you ever again. You'll just be gone. You are banished. You are literally banished to the bottom. But yeah, any mention of cultism or of followers as people like acolytes or something like that will immediately drop you to the second category. Don't know why, but it does. And very weird, very, very, very weird. I'm still trying to figure that one out because it's not a direct insult, and it's not like you're encouraging people to be cultists. Like criticism of cultism drops you down there. It's just like any mention of the words will drop you down there. Something really weird.
A lot of things you could do in business that would help that are maybe not the right thing to do. I'll be real here. It's getting difficult for those of us who try to do things right, and we're not the only review outlet here. We're not alone in this.
I am once again going to point out that Steve they make burn videos here, so some of it is warranted. I have no problems with Steve coming back at Linus for Linus coming back at them, but there is also an ulterior motive here, which is this gets clicks.
To wade into a product conversation, especially after LTT, where we have to tiptoe around errors they make and write scripts around it to kind of try and subtly correct it, considering the most devout part of the community's propensity to lash out like you're seeing against these two companies defending themselves. And we don't care anymore. We're just going to say it like it is. Being new to testing, it doesn't absolve the need for taking responsibility of the content just because you're new to this certain branch of business. And they have to continue to respect the position that the company is in, especially when building the business's future on the back of Labs data. As a leader, you're responsible for what you say, and whether or not you are branded as the CEO, you still have to feel that responsibility for saying the things that are said. Linus Media Group has grown into a massive corporation. It's hired a seasoned CEO to replace Linus. It controls over 120 employees. They affect the purchasing decisions of millions of people, and they brand themselves as an unbiased, for the people outlet. And this is an admirable goal, but the reality right now is that...
So I can actually see this. As I mentioned before, while I see it as techtainment, and I've explained it to you guys why Linus LTT is techtainment, and just don't take everything with a grain of salt. Don't take their benchmarks as the word of God. Chisel it in stone. Go to another resource like GN or Hardware Unbox is generally the one I recommend right now. Or if you're into the whole reason we watch tech tubers, I'd prefer reading about tech, is because I can watch this with you guys and we can discuss it on stream. Some of the stuff's pretty cool, and it's worth actually coming up because I like talking about tech. It's worth discussing and going over. But like if I had a choice, I'd probably just read everything on Tech Power Up. Tech Power Up makes some very good articles, but they don't really make videos. As most it never used to be written articles used to be a really big thing, and they just kind of went out of business as everything moved to tubing. So, but otherwise, they have some very good articles.
That Linus Tech Tips and LMG is acting in a careless, irresponsible way with these
But anyways, I would also say that the majority of the average user, a lot of people just take things for granted. If someone opens their mouth and says something, they'll take it as truth, regardless of ulterior motives. Ulterior motives, agenda, narrative have become bigger and bigger. Subterfuge, a good word to know if you guys don't know it. If you don't know, subterfuge. Deceit used in order to achieve one's goals. So you don't always say what you mean. Astroturfing, there's a lot of words. It's not just in politics. There's a lot of words used to describe it, but subterfuge is a really good word to know. Because a lot of people practice it now. Because as it turns out, when you kind of grow, there's a lot of things that are about manipulating people rather than telling people the truth. Because it's not necessarily, you say one thing, someone says something else. It's not necessarily who's right anymore. Rather, it's just whoever makes the other person look worse, which really isn't the way that it should be, but yeah, it's kind of the way that it's going, because it's the way it works in a lot of people's brains. Like, they misconstrue truth with just whoever got insulted the hardest or worst wrong. So
bad data points and conclusions and either laziness or an unwillingness to commit that time.
LTT definitely does market themselves
as line, all of these things. These irresponsible
like
actions,
a source of
they can affect,
credible information.
In the worst cases, the life work of an individual, say a smaller company, or in the more common cases, it can just mislead consumers into spending money that they don't have to spend or on things they don't realize are maybe not the right fit for them because of these problems. Having deep and high-level corporate connections in companies and going easy on manufacturers while then briefly after taking their money for a corporate title sponsorship of a major convention, investing in laptop companies and covering their own products alongside competitors, these are actions that to us raise serious concerns about the objectives of the company. Is it in fact consumer first, or is it more looking at the bottom line? The fun Linus personality in front of all of it doesn't make it simply okay to do these things, to publish bad data so regularly and knowingly in some cases, like with the block,
CNET still exists.
Not take the time to do it properly. No matter how funny and goofy the video may be, it simply isn't okay. The data matters, the consumer matters, the perspective of the consumer also matters now, viewing this company as a sort of reforged, not just entertainment company, and the truth matters. We think there's an eagerness in the less experienced employees coupled with a lack of disciplined and experienced management to steer them in the right direction and check for mistakes. So some of this is fine if you are just an entertainer. But if you start marketing your business on accuracy and data and objectivity, like
I don't think Linus really does,
since the website
but
days,
they also don't go all the way to
we should
dissuade
all be
people.
held to the same standards. We should all play by the same rules and audience scrutiny and criticisms. And likewise, we as reviewers have to hold ourselves accountable to the same standards because, again, it protects all of us from manufacturers being like, these guese don't do anything useful.
Linus clapped, Steve clapped back.
My thoughts on this.
Other Steve from Hub clapping just because he can.
I want to get back to testing stuff, but it was important to us, and I hope that people listened before they just jumped to the OMG drama lol comments. But
OMG drama lol is actually what I'm going with here. So, I would say there is some credibility to the criticism that Linus doesn't take testing seriously all the time. We've talked about it. I've just mentioned that, like, you can watch Linus, just take it with a grain of salt, as we just mentioned a couple different times during this video. And I really don't think that's outside of enough of an asterisk. Like, I think that's actually fine, because a lot of their numbers aren't necessarily credible, or their test methodology's off, or there's a lot of different things we've mentioned over the years, but we occasionally cover them because they generally release a video first, and that really matters a lot in tech. Not so much in more recent stuff, because there's no deadline. Like, when he releases a CPU, that matters, right? He releases a GPU, that matters. But, like, with a lot of these videos we're seeing, like, it doesn't actually matter whether or not they take an extra day to make it. If they're talking about manpower, sure. That just means they need better methodology of how their employees follow to make sure that they're testing things right, and there's someone that actually goes through and looks at the data. They have someone's job that makes sure that what they put down is actually legitimate. Like, they go through and verify everything in the video before it gets published. Like I said, they probably can make a department that just does this, or a couple guys that just do this. Redundancy, it's not really that big of a deal. Video he's talking about a month ago. But anyways, a lot of these videos aren't first to market. Like, none of this shit is stuff that people are like, oh my god, I want to see who releases it first. So it wouldn't really matter that much as far as release cycle goes. It would matter as far as employee time goes. But LTT is techtainment, guys. Okay. Let's move along into the Reddits here. We are going to play a couple games of Overwatch. That took a lot of time. I did not expect to spend 2 hours on that. Oh my god, I got some lovely, lovely mail. What'd I get? This is a while ago, I think. It's like 2 days ago? 3 days ago. It's not worth replying on. Twitter or Reddit is oftentimes 24 hours. After you pass the 24-hour threshold, it'll no longer be on the front page of whatever Reddit you're on. And as such, the visibility, the only person that will ever see this is whoever Googles this or this guy, which I'm not interested in responding to him, so we aren't going to waste time on that. It doesn't matter what he wrote. To be perfectly honest, it's too late. Oh my god, a diva cosplay. The only person that will... I mean, she in no way, shape, or form looks like Diva. How many upvotes did she get? 900. Cosplay matters a lot as far as physique goes, and she does not have the Diva physique. Putting aside the elephant in the room, Diva is very, very slender, and she is more buxom. But you know. And there's going to be a lot of clapping hands and upvotes. I mean, like she bought the suit. I had a slight feeling this will end very badly, so the elephant in the room is obviously Diva's Asian and she's African American or black. I don't know what. She might not be African American. It could be bait too. It could be intentional bait to get publicity. Just do something that you know is people aren't going to respond well to, and then people will talk about it. Interesting. Sims on the sub need to stop upvoting bodysuits. Yeah, she bought the suit off Amazon. Yeah. Exactly that. She bought the costume off Amazon. Yep. Who would I cosplay as? Sigma, obviously. Oh, look, Sigma. Would I wear a Blue Beetle suit or an Overwatch suit? Maybe if I got paid enough. Sure. I'd really be enjoying the idea of Blue Beetle. I've never even heard of Blue Beetle, to be perfectly honest. I know it's a superhero. I'm not pro superhero, but do you, dude? Any more superhero movies anymore? I think they're all kind of drab and boring. They're all very formulaic, and they generally check boxes. Not such a fan of the green screen background. It makes it easy. Yeah, I think any of the negative comments here were moderated off. This is really good. Downvoted. I think all the negative comments were moderated off this post. Overwatch 2 Reddits have a very strong moderation policy. Yeah. Yep. Welcome to our happy reality. Teehee. Why can't we specify which game modes we want to play? Because it literally would make the queues astronomically long. They're already struggling with making balanced queues. There's some things you dislike about Ilari, that she's a DPS. Yeah, let's put that in here. 18 hours, it's not going to matter at all. That she's a DPS. Ilari is the new healer, but she does DPS levels damage, and she does healing on par with other healers, the best healers. I've seen good Alaris tie basically Anna's for healing and then do as much damage as the lowest DPS on the team, on either team. One or the other. Zen does DPS levels of damage, but he does poor healing. So, AMD Reddits. Cosplay as myself, I do. I make a great cosplay. Still waiting for a new monitor, guys. It was supposed to be released in Q2. Apparently, it's not going to be released till later this year. 500 hertz Asus monitor. Yep. Still fucking waiting. My monitor is a piece of shit. And I've wanted to get rid of it for some time, but I was going to replace it with the 500 hertz monitor, and it's still not available. DBD Reddits. Why did you tunnel me? Because you were the weakest link. He's staring at the body, blocking, unhooked survivor, waiting for the dollar store borrowed time to be over. I need to pay you more. Staring at the body, blocking. Body blocking, unhooked survivor, waiting for the dollar store BT to be over. Why isn't this registering? Because the guy off the hook tries to take a protection hit for you, that's why he tunnels you. This doesn't really make sense. Okay. Okay, let's move along, guys. Let's move along. We are not covering the BattleBit Reddits anymore. Yeah? Am I supposed to be an NPC streamer now? I have not dropped that low. You'll have to go to your TikToks for that. Hamburger meat, nom nom nom. There you go. You didn't even pay me anything for that. Okay, I'm gonna grab a water, guys. We are gonna play some OW2s here. Play a couple games here just for the sake of playing games. Be right back, guys. Alrighty, guys. Message retracted. Oh my god. Would I play from cosplay? Would I cosplay as from Overwatch? You mean Sigma? Are you cosplaying Slain? Kind of feels that way. I can look at your message history. I can see what you wrote in a past life. There's no saving you. Over, man. Alright, Overwatch 2. Off we go, guys. We're actually going to play Gamazes here. Kind of the weird thing is, on YouTube, there's still two live categories for Overwatch. One is Overwatch and one is Overwatch 2, and people stream under both of them. So, yeah. Just to add more, more uncertainty to where you're supposed to be with certain things, yeah. Ah, good to know. Right. Turn on my VRB. Oh my god. Overclocking my monitor. Not really. Actually still thinking my mouse might be fucked. You guys just saw it wig out on the screen? Yeah. Does it on occasion. I don't think it's my Surface either. I do. Until I start talking about cheaters. Thank you.
You weren't watching the skies.
Mom has a nice voice too. Oh!
Prepare for battle. Select
Ah. Good. Hope you guys are all having a wonderful evening, though, chat. You enjoyed the drama. Tech drama. Tech drama is like the lowest hanging fruit, too, of like the kind of drama people are into, too. Oh my god, it's Monica Jason. Oh, I've seen you. I know who you are. I don't know who Monica Jason is. Someone that's excited to play quick play. That's always worrying. See how many cheaters we get tonight, guys. It's usually one per game. We'll see, though.
no mercy. Greetings. Hola, flying the friendly skies. Affirmative. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Round 1. Capture.
Ah, good. I don't know you.
Just in case.
I literally preceded that by saying I don't know you. That's not good. That's not good. Depends on where you live. This is like the absolute worst time to stream for North America in general, and it's when I'm streaming. But Europe, it is late morning right now, and Asia is late night. She can heal, even if I got 2 direct hits, she can actually out DPS me. So it doesn't even matter.
Okay, my head's in
Out
the game.
HPS me. Try and get them off the top, like this. Missed. Reinhardt got in the way. Now they're off the door. Do it again. Our team is absolute dog shit. We might check to see whether or not it's actually a pre-made 2 here in a second. No, and they're just chasing me around right now. We have a tank with 0 presence, guys. We have no heals.
All systems nominal.
Go and do it again. Anything that gets them out of the doorway so our teammates can actually get into the point. Fuck off, bitch. This guy is incredibly accurate. He might be cheating. Good for him.
Always more to learn.
Doom's still going up there. We're gonna make it. We did. Let's check for a pre-made.
Best round lost. Score.
Possibly 2-stack. Nothing outside the ordinary. Our team, on the other hand, seems to be pretty bad. Good.
Pre-flight checklist complete. Running clean and hot. I've got a good.
Oh, you have 6 deaths. Yeah, I actually tried to get to the point and got them off the front door multiple times. And then we also had people that left.
5,
Good shit.
4, 3, 2, 1. Round 2. Capture.
The only thing you can do, guys, when your team's too stupid to actually get around the side of them is trying to get them off the doorway so your team can actually get in. Fuck off. When you're playing like 1v6, guys, there isn't a lot you can do. 2v6 maybe. Pre-made is a group of players, which isn't necessarily usually that big of a deal if the matchmaker's good, but when you're playing late night, your team generally sucks, and as such, any sort of organization completely changes things.
Excellent teamwork.
Try pushing them around the side again.
I'm taking the objective. Converge on me.
And insta-cleanse my one ability because we have no pressure from anyone else on our team. Like their entire team's playing around me.
Let's show them some air power.
Yeah.
Positioning.
Good shit.
Up and away.
Whatever the fuck Mercy. What do you think the Mercy is doing over there? With no one over there. Fucking Alari's full of herself too. Might also be cheating. He's shooting me without shooting me. What?
Making another approach. On the move.
100% accurate Kiriko. We're gonna go through and take a look at the replay on the Kiriko at the end of this. Maybe the Alari too. Fucked off already. Huh? Oh, the sniper's hitting shots now. Okay.
Repositioning.
Good.
Aerial positioning under
Glad that our teammates actually went to the point. Once again, the Lari is 100% accurate, so we're going to take a peek at the replay here. Not worth playing. I'm pretty sure both the DPS or the supports are cheating, not the DPS. We'll see. We have... Sometimes when people are cheating too, you can tell when they buy their gaming chair. So master... Yeah. It's not that big of a juxtaposition, but former plat, they used to play too. Mercy. Not that big of a juxtaposition. All right, let's see. A lot of shit going on there, guys. We're just at a big disadvantage the entire match. We have a team guy. So initially you saw some preem. Right here. And she tries to shoot her through the side. Right there. Behind the wall. And of course she one-shots her too.
Don't underestimate me.
Tried to shoot me through the wall. 100% accurate. I usually stream every night from 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. Central Standard Time, so late night North America time. I usually stream every day. I believe if you follow my channel, if you subscribe to me, you can see when I go live. He's over flicking. Tried to shoot me through the wall. Tried to shoot me through the wall. When people try to shoot you through a wall, it's because they have late reaction time. So when they click the button, even though they flicked your position, when they click the button, they're actually clicking too late. So their personal reaction time is actually really poor, even though they're basically 100% accurate, which is something you see relatively commonly with cheats. Okay. It was basically, at this point, it was a stat, though, as a trend. And also the Widowmaker... Wall hack's done.
Score. Ready for battle.
I was snapping. Did anyone read the mission brief?
Hey, Idwin, how's your evening going, dude? Now we get to spend the next 10 minutes looking at people in replay, because we had a wonderful first game, so... Late-night gaming is usually a lot of super hardcore players and cheaters. behind the wall. She's not hitting anything.
Let me see.
So, even though she's missing shots, depending if they have a set miss or if they have a min lock distance where they have to flick to a certain distance for it to actually flick to the character, will change whether or not they actually they hit the target. Depends on the humanization and how it goes. Catch you later, Marvel. We've seen plenty of pre-aim through walls, though. This is where she shot me while not shooting me. But this is more of an effect. It might be right here. Might be a side effect of the hit scan with hit scan of the rifle. So I think this guy has a high ping. Hit scan, hit scan is a type of hit detection, but it's also sometimes confused with the way the gun functions in the game, which is instantaneous shot. You can have a hit scan rifle that functions like a projectile. And the reason they use hit scan instead of a projectile is because it's much easier to aim a hit scan than it is a projectile. She actually shoots me right now without actually shooting my character. Right there. This hits my character. It's actually not shooting me right now, either on her screen or where it is on the replay screen. And I notice this in the cam. So this guy probably has a really high ping, probably 150 plus, so not in the US is my guess. You can see the actual flick. If you look at this, you can actually see where the guy flicks, and then you can see where the aimbot kicks in and flicks to the actual character. Like, that's where the guy flicks, right? And then when he clicks the button, it actually snaps to my character. So this guy's cheating. We're going to go with that guy cheating. He toggled on and off a couple times throughout the match, though. Which is this guy. Take a look at the Kiriko. That was also weird.
Ready for battle.
Are you talking about crypto? That's not crypto. I mean, that seems like something that's more of a you thing. So, are you worried about whether or not what your friends are going to say, or what about what you would say? There might be a very specific demographic that might appeal to. Who are the two guys that were grouped together too? Was it both the supports? So people usually cheat. When they do cheat, they cheat with each other. So if you'll get partners or people, one of the reasons I check grouping is one to see if we're in a complete pre-made, so it gives you an idea how loaded the game is. There's a couple reasons I check grouping. The other one is because when people cheat, they usually cheat with friends. I don't remember which. It said you can't invite them, but sometimes I don't know if that they'll tell you. Regardless. I got him out of the doorway, so our teammates should go up. That, by the way, that's not something I should be doing. I shouldn't be the one initiating, trying to get our team into the fight. That's what the tank's supposed to do. But sometimes when your tank's dirt, i.e., they don't know what they're doing, sometimes you have to give them the opportunity to actually make plays at your expense, which isn't really what I should be doing as a player, but as a DPS. But that's the way things work. So, just standing in this little doorway getting culled here is not useful. Pre-aim again.
Time for a fight. Make me proud. Ready for a knockout? Defend the objective.
This guy has no indicator of where I am right now. You can see he's watching me through the floor. If you ever watch content creators, guys, I am very certain there's a lot of the bigger content creators on Twitch actually cheat. I don't know about Kick, but definitely, probably universal across all platforms. And one of the things you will actually notice is they pre-aim a lot. Pre-aiming is something you can't do normally. There's some indicators that will give it away. You can use directional, such as audio cues, but that only does so much for you. But you'll start noticing things like pre-aim, because they're, and sometimes even shoot at people through walls, depends on how good their mouse discipline is. Sometimes they'll even try to shoot the player through the wall. And it's a dead giveaway someone's using a wall hack. Only get it once here, and it could be because he's approaching the point, but he's basically looking at my exact position. Also something very weird going on with that guy's aim. What the fuck is that? Oh yeah? You wouldn't happen to be trying to get me to say something very in particular, are you? Never seen those before.
How many was that? You thought me
And by the way, even if we get 2 people in the game that are cheating, this is not super uncommon. I've had it as much as 4 people in the game that are cheating. Sometimes you get cheat squads, which are entire groups of people that are cheating together. They make burner accounts and they hop on together to cheat with each other. Usually happens on the weekends. Yeah. Kids just decide it's a great idea to make burner accounts and then hop on and all cheat with each other till they get banned. Usually they're really, 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 really obnoxious.
Ready for battle.
No, I'm not interested in your bucket for frogs. But, you know, do you? I wonder if these 2 guys are grouped together. Maybe we can check chat at the end of this. Sometimes you just get people that know that they're cheating, because people that cheat actually know what other cheaters look like. There's a surprising number of people that have no idea what cheating looks like, and some people that think they know what cheating looks like, and it's nothing like what they think. Sadly. And if you need any sort of primer, you just type in your favorite game and cheats. And don't cheat yourself, but you should have get an idea of what you're looking for. They love making montages and videos of themselves cheating too.
with you.
No longer has line of sight on me anymore. She can't see my health or my name because I haven't been hit by her.
Appreciate it. The breeze brings relief.
That hit me. Other aimbots, by the way, depending on the kind of projectile aimbot, it'll have different amounts of humanization because there's tons of people that make different types of cheats, tons of different developers. With projectile aimbots, you'll often see small responses, so anytime you start moving, projectile has to lead you. So if you start moving like this, a projectile has to lead you a certain amount, right? Back and forth, it has to lead you a certain amount. So the moment you start moving one direction, if your AD is spamming like this, it has to predict you a certain amount as if you're moving the same distance. It depends on how well it is actually programmed, but it'll basically make large movement responses to small ones that a normal player would be able to tell right away that you're not going to do.
The objective is now.
My gift to you.
But yeah? Frogs might not be your market. Maybe outside of the US? Not having a team, by the way, just made this game even worse. Now there's like no responses there. That was exactly in time with my missile that was about to land. So they also have auto cleanse. Kirikos have auto cleanse. That happens. That was about to be a direct hit on the Olari. Right then, that was a direct missile. Perfectly cleansed. Not the cleanse itself is a vulnerability. And Widowmaker started hitting shots at the end of that just to add insult to injury. I actually landed that one too. That's funny.
Soothing your wounds. I'm grateful.
It was such a shit match too, like, 'cause we had like almost no battles in here. Like, it makes it, the amount of data points we have is also very limited. Like, particularly 100% accurate on me.
Meteor strike.
Justice reigns from above.
That wasn't in response to me ulting. That was because they were at 30 health. Okay. And this is 20 minutes ago for a 9-minute match. You just spent 20 minutes of my time. Good. Blizzard can figure it out. Next game. Good start to the night, guys. Great start. Bravo. Yeah, I mean, some people are into frog legs. I hear it tastes like chicken, so you know, you might be right on par. It's par for the course. You know, you just need to find the right market. Yeah, and you know, you'll be set for life. Some parts of the world might really enjoy frogs. Also, no, I don't want to invest in your product. I don't know if it was clear, but not really interested in the frog market at the moment.
Strike from above. Up and away. When I'm
Yeah, it also did not help that... So when you get bad games, it also can make things look really weird. So, like, you just won't... putting aside the game's not going to be that long, all the data points are just going to be looking really, really weird. Purely... because the enemy has a lot of initiative value, I guess you could say, which just means they'll always be able to start the team fight in an advantageous position. Allows them to be very cheeky.
messy, but we got it done. Increasing altitude. Blasted.
All right, robot. 4 AM games in Overwatch are usually pretty terrible too, guys, so... But I'm doing it for you. It's all for you, guys. Fresh account. Uh-oh. This is a DPS? Healer. What do you think the chances are they're on Alari?
Increasing altitude.
Probably a group.
Ooh, I live for this. No. No unnecessary risk.
Huh. Ah, like Crocs for dogs? Oh my god. They already make little booty shoes for dogs.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
Too much damage, guys.
The skies await.
Enemy here.
Taking off.
got. And no heals.
Okay, my head's in the game.
I see an enemy.
On the move.
Did it actually cap the point? The fuck? So, generally, if you have a monkey, if they're remotely competent, if you have a monkey or a diva guys and use your ult, it's almost guaranteed you're going to die as Pharaoh whenever you ult. But they'll almost always charge you, so you aim at them and then expect them to charge into your model, and usually they want to kill you on your own rockets. So then you turn away, and they'll usually overshoot you, and then you turn back. I'm gonna kill the Mercy. He's gonna charge me again.
Stay down.
Anna, online. The payload has reached the checkpoint.
Establishing aerial position.
Enemy turret ahead.
Thanks for the assist. I knew I could help.
Yeah. This diva, for some reason, is constantly on my dick. And microwing anyone that tries to, I try to kill. So actually check for a pre-mid. Possibly a 2-stack. Doesn't look like it is.
Get together. Not loud. I left the target.
Repositioning.
Oh my god. She fucking went back into it. Like I said, he was literally just on my dick. Entire time. Okay.
Shake it off. Fire at will.
Vegemite fries are on the side. You put it on the side so that it doesn't make the fries soggy. But then, depending on the kind of fries you have, some are soggy anyways.
They outnumber us. Keep it tight.
We're just gonna ignore the tank. Bastion's trying to shoot me. I'm sure he didn't fire all three. He trying to bait me? I think he's trying to bait me back there. Like all they're doing is trying to chase me down, so what we're doing is evading them. We're forcing them to use their cooldown abilities to try and chase me, and then we're just leaving immediately when they try to force me. Dead. Beautiful. I mean... Dude, we get any free time here, we're just gonna fuck on them. Their entire team is trying to fuck with me constantly, so I don't have time to actually do anything. Hank's still trying to fuck with me. Not sure why he swapped. He's actually doing well, and he decided he was going to swap.
I need healing.
Over here.
You're going to.
I feel the burn. I have your back.
Oh yeah? And the tank just fucked himself. I don't know why he did that. Now he's staggered. As a waste. You definitely don't want to be staggered as a tank because your team can't really do much of anything without you. It's a huge waste. Unless they have a Sombra. Yeah, so I think the Bastion they use, it sounded like you just fired two again. That's the sound bug. My god, the Life Weaver. Possibly could have killed him if I was a little bit more accurate.
I don't want to talk about it.
Fortified. I am on fire. On my way.
Ah. Good. That entire match, guys, getting focused by their entire fucking team, and we still won. Yikes. Especially the fucking tank on my dick the entire match. Look how little damage the enemy tank did. They literally just spent the entire match babying me. Let's see. .48-25 isn't even bad. This is actually really good for accuracy. We didn't do super horrible as far as damage went. Got like no limbs because of the tank once again.
Prepare for battle. Select your hero.
Biodegradable plastic that doesn't harm the environment. I think they're actually working on that right now. And not talking about the shitty cardboard straws, which are horrible. Good, good, good.
Strike from above.
Have I seen you before? It's possible. I've passed through Junkertown once or twice.
You're the one who kicked Redneck in the wicker basket.
He started it.
Mm-hmm.
Lying widely scattered. That's hard vacuum, baby. That's hard vacuum, baby.
Ah.
Wait till you see me on my bunk. Yes. Yeah. You're welcome. Aerial positioning underway. Under my protection. Oh.
He just blind arrowed me. Okay.
Always more to learn.
Well, I mean, salads do taste like other foods. Have you put dressing on them?
We need that robot to turn around.
I actually eat, like, I am a big fan of salad. You can eat as much salad as you fucking want, and it doesn't make you fat. Assuming you don't put shit on it.
Barricade is pushing forward. Enemy over here.
Yep.
Watching the skies. Appreciate it.
And we got a healer that helped me, although we didn't need it.
Pushing. Get shot. Eyes on the target. Positioning. Let's go.
We get hit shot by like 2 at the same time, that's where the problem comes in, even if I can tank the side damage. Tank the damage.
Let the Kitsune guide you. Scatter.
There we go.
I see an enemy. Look at that push.
Oh my god, my fucking cute, whatever. That works for me. I don't know why the Junker Queen showed up right there. The Junker Queen played that well, I wouldn't have gotten a second kill, let alone the tank. That just worked out real well. If you have an Ana ult on with a Ferroq, you can kill pretty much anything. This got stuck on the sign. Like banana smoothie flavored salads. I mean, there are salads with bananas in them. Got stuck on the sign.
We can do better than this. Come on, we're shredded.
Like fruit salads? Uh-oh. Is he over here for revenge? Kind of looks that way.
Positioning.
The headshot. The healers are pretty good.
They're pushing ahead. I require to take this off. Dispersing.
Just push her out the window. Okay, bye.
Robot, we need to attack.
Alright, that makes complete sense. Missed! It missed! My E missed! Oh, just regular salads. I feel as though you're stipulating and trying to make salads unpalatable. I'm a big fan of salads. I like my salads. And it happens when you get old and realize you can't just eat whatever the fuck you want, because then you die. Yeah, it's the story of the world. If you need filler, guys, put something down your gullet, fill it with vegetables, and then pretty much, you'll be unlikely to kill yourself. This fucking McCree loves getting cheeky shots on me, which possibly means he's cheating.
I need healing. What's up? I knew I
Like he's trying to come around the corner and insta-giving me. Like 2-tap. Oh my god. Fucking McCree. Fucking stuck again. Yep. Yep. Very, very, very accurate soldier. Who was a soldier? Soldier was a Hanzo. Bone machine bot from the looks of it. Yeah, detaches when the person goes behind the wall too. I was actually like McDonald's actually used to have the, out of all the fast food places, guys, McDonald's had the best salads. They had Southwest salads. They got rid of them during COVID. It's one of the things that cost the most amount of money. You guys didn't know that. Yeah, the soldier's definitely cheating. It costs them the most money because they have to have fresh vegetables, and fresh vegetables go bad.
You're not the only one.
That McCree is also sus as fuck because he keeps trying to get like cheeky shots on me to insta-give me, which is something you see when cheaters get frustrated that they can't kill you because you're good at taking cover. They'll try and just come out of the middle of nowhere with open line of sight and insta-give you before you can go behind cover because there's no cover. Get that in time. See if we can help the tank.
They've taken the robot.
There's the fucking McCree again. I don't even think the McCree hit me. They did. I mean, Arby's used to have salads too. They got rid of them. And they didn't bring them back because they're expensive. You don't realize that, but you might be like, I'm all meat and potatoes, man. I gotta have my meat and potatoes. But vegetables are expensive. Fruit is expensive. They can freeze that slime patty for as long as they fucking want.
Stop them from pushing that barricade.
Oh my god. Well. Nice. That was a completely out of position battle. Okay. And he was out of position. Probably can teleport. She did. Stepped behind cover again. That Mercy was hot on my dick. Good for her. That is a soldier that's now playing Tracer. Solari is also very accurate too. We're in a line of sight. Bad time to reload, guys. I didn't know I had the Ana Q on. I thought that was a Mercy boosting me. I could have killed the McCree before he killed me if I knew that I had the Ana boost done.
They outnumber us.
For us.
Keep it tight. Thanks for the assist.
Hello, Aslan. 60 seconds.
Increasing altitude. Don't let them push ahead.
Oh, I timed that perfect.
Escorting the robots.
Fuck off, Kirito. Got rid of his healing boost. They got a hook though. Was one purchase I made in the past, but I now regret. I don't really do that much, to be perfectly honest. Like, you make a couple wrong, at least in my opinion, you make a couple wrong purchases, and you learn that spending a tiny bit of time researching means you will make something you generally like, even if it's not very By the way, in the position we were in just now, we shouldn't have actually taken the cart to them, because then they can push it back. It depends on the map, though. It actually makes it easier for them to start overtime. Lovely heals. Thank you for swapping out Sombra. Actually kind of looks like our Tracer has a aimbot. It actually kind of looks like our Tracer had an aimbot. But I'm not going to spend time going through that and looking at their replay footage. That's where I stopped the line. You can spend so much time, guys, looking at replays in this game and analyzing footage that it's just a huge... I'd rather spend time playing the game. Huge waste of time. So who was it? It was the McCree is kind of sus, but it was mainly that other guy when he swapped the soldier. I don't know why he swapped off right away. He went to Tracer. Projectile heroes will miss, so it makes it difficult to ascertain what exactly is going on. Easier with hit scan. He is 100% cheating.
Who needs healing?
Yeah. You can see the responses to where the person was positioned behind the wall, and every time she moved, he'd actually move to intercept where she's about to come out. That guy's definitely cheating. Because it turns out you can't fucking see that. Where was it? Their cheat sheet. But, like, I don't know. Probably, like, purchases when I was younger. Kind of seemed like it was a cool idea, and then not really. Older stuff, not really. I don't know about the McCree. We aren't going to go through this. I generally eventually just get sick of looking at replays, to be perfectly honest. It's a waste of time. Do his play. I'd honestly, like, if they ever got better anti-cheat. You can also, like I mentioned earlier, you can sometimes see when people buy their gaming chair, which is cheats. Like Season 3. All of a sudden they became much better. From gold and plat. Gold and diamond, excuse me. Okay. We're gonna call things here for this evening though, guys. I don't know. I mean, there's some small stuff. It's usually like the small stuff when you don't have a lot of money that makes you realize that you don't really, like, just a little bit. The bigger the purchase is, the more time I will spend researching something. To make sure I get the right thing, or if it's something where I've gotten the wrong thing multiple times, then I'll spend more time researching it too. Depending, like, for instance, supplements, computer hardware brands. Like when I'm about to do a hardware upgrade on my main computer, we'll spend a bunch of time looking at different components and stuff like that. bigger purchases in general. Cars, we spent a lot of time when I bought my new car. It's not a new car, it's a used car. I have a Saab, which is actually a lot of fun. Putting that aside, really depends. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, like when I was younger, probably like, like it's really stupid stuff. But when you're younger, because you don't have a lot of money, it actually is very meaningful to you because you don't have much money to spend, right? So when I was younger, there was an upgrade cycle between Pentiums. They went from the Pentium 3 to the Pentium 4, and I had the opportunity to buy a new computer. It was my first computer for myself that wasn't a family computer, and my dad helped me buy it when I was younger. And when I bought it, I didn't realize I bought the wrong motherboard. And as it turned out, I couldn't use the same memory on it. I thought I had DDR memory, and I bought RDRAM motherboard at the time, and RDRAM was really, really fucking expensive. And mistakenly purchased it. I couldn't return the parts, so I had to basically buy a more expensive memory, which apparently pissed off my dad. But that was that was not really. That's not like a regret moment. Most of the stuff nowadays with like Amazon, like you can basically try stuff and return it, which is a pretty big deal. Not like I'm trying on underwear and returning it or something, or fucks mom's panties, or whatever. But there's a lot of different things you can try out and try multiple models out, and with the kind of stuff in which Spencer redacting himself again. Look at this. But, you have more opportunity to actually buy stuff that has meaning to you, right? Or you can make a better informed purchase. You can look at reviews, and spending a tiny bit of time means you will save yourself basically money or headache later on in the future, hopefully, and learn stuff along the way, like how people are scamming or making counterfeit products or whatever. But yeah. We're going to call things for this evening. That's a lovely name, Fuck, by the way. You're great. Good for you. Surprised no one else wanted that name. But yeah. Despite the fact we got some cheaters, you always have cheaters in this game. First game was just miserable, but otherwise not super bad. Spent majority of the time tonight in the podcast section talking about drama, LTT drama, and Gamers Nexus drama, if you guys are curious about that. That's the majority earlier in the podcast stream. But yeah, we're going to call things here for this evening, guys. Tomorrow will be more of the OW2s. Yeah, when I was younger, I did a couple, actually, when I was younger. It's kind of weird how stuff just works out for you. Weird ways it just happens to work out and you're still alive. But we need to call things for this evening, guys. Look at you making content. Look at you, Spencer. You're giving me things to talk about and shit? Wow. Should pay you more, too. Wow, I don't pay you guys enough making content in my channel. That's crazy. But we're going to call things here this evening, guys. Tomorrow will be more of the Overwatch 2. If you are new to the stream and you enjoyed the bullshit, you enjoyed the fun, you enjoyed the podcast section, make sure you hit the follow button on your respective platform. I stream to Kick, Facebook, as well as YouTube Live every night from late night to early morning, GMT-6, so about 11 p.m. Central Standard Time to 4 a.m., give or take. Depends on my life, what's happening, etc., guys. The usual shenanigans, guys. We are out of here for this evening. Tomorrow will be more of the OW2s. But already, guys, we're going to call things here for this evening. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching my stream as always, and I hope you guys have a wonderfully fantastic Monday night and Tuesday morning. Oh, yeah, you can get the coffee, Spencer. Anyways, guys, have a good night.